I'd like to call the Monday, October 8th, 2018 Blue Springs Planning Commission meeting to order. And please ask if y'all would rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to welcome all of you here this evening, and also we have those that would be watching. Tonight on our agenda we have the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes and the final plat for Chapman Farms Pump Station. Item 2 is the site plan design review for Discover Vision Centers. Item 3 is the public hearing rezoning for Charlie's Car Wash. Item 4 is the public hearing for conditional use permit for also Charlie's Car Wash. Item 5 is the site plan design review for Charlie's Car Wash. Number 6 is the preliminary plat for Charlie's Car Wash. Number 7 is the master alternative sign plan for Charlie's Car Wash, followed by any other business and adjournment. So with that, I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I so move.
Commissioner, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carried for the consent agenda, which include the minutes and the final plat for Chapman Farms Pump Station. Now we will go to item 2, which is site plan design review for Discover Vision Centers, and I think Mr. Jury, you're going to take care of that for us.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Madam Chair and Planning Commission. Before you today, the applicant Mike Weirich with Discover Vision on behalf of the property owner Quick Trip Corporation is requesting approval of a site plan design review to convert the existing building, which was formerly Quick Trip, to accommodate the Discover Vision Center business. The property is located at 211 Northwest 7 Highway at the southwest corner of 7 Highway and Vesper Street. The property is approximately 1.52 acres in area. The proposed building is approximately 9,000 square feet. This property has been platted previously, and they're not proposing any property line changes. And it's also zoned appropriately to accommodate the proposed medical service use. If this SPDR is approved, any applicable building or sign permits should be obtained before any work is commenced. As for the site plan here, I'll go over a little bit of their proposal. The vehicle access, they're proposing to utilize the existing drives along Vesper and 7 Highway. The 7 Highway drive is a shared drive with the property to the south. And since they're not modifying anything there, the Public Works did not require any other improvements. Pedestrian access, they're proposing to keep or to include some of the pedestrian access to the main entrance, and they're going to add sidewalk connecting the entrance to Vesper as well as the entrance to 7 Highway's existing public sidewalk as required by our UDC. The existing sidewalk is there in its entirety, is along Vesper and 7 Highway. There may be some improvements required by MoDOT if anything is out of line or any sidewalk repair that is needed, but that should be coordinated through MoDOT and their right-of-way permits. As for the building and its layout, the proposal meets the minimum building setback and massing requirements for the proposed general commercial building type. Parking, the minimum is met. However, they are providing more than 10% over the minimum, so additional mitigation elements are required, which can be accomplished through landscaping, and I'll go over in a little bit what their landscape plan is, but they did provide approximately 10% more landscaping than required by code. And their landscape plan, they are utilizing in their landscaping a lot of the existing trees and landscaping located on site. and they are proposing some additional landscaping specifically along 7 Highway and in front of the building. And as proposed, they do meet all of the landscape requirements. They also meet the frontage buffer or the frontage requirements along Vesper and 7 Highway, as well as the street tree requirement along Summit, which there wasn't one previously. The small section of Summit Street that they do touch. As for lighting, the proposed plan meets all the parking lot lighting standards in the UDC. Signage appears to also meet the requirements as well. Here's some building elevations that show the proposed conversion of the existing building on site. So the exterior, the building will be finished mainly with a mix of brick veneer, stone veneer, stucco glass, and some call wall translucent panels that are shown in the white area up here. They will be utilizing a lot of the rear facade, the existing brickwork on that rear facade though. As for screening, there is an existing brick enclosure for the trash, and which will remain, and there's also they're proposing rooftop units to be screened by a metal screen that matches the building. And here's a floor plan as well. So with that, staff believes it meets all of the UDC requirements and recommends approval with 2 conditions. So I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Jury? Yes, Mr. Phillips?
Mr. Jury, I think I can tell, but it wasn't real clear in the report. Can you show us exactly how much of the building is new and how much is the old building? And what's the square footage on the existing versus the addition?
The architect might be able to answer that question. I do know the building is more of a squared footprint, and so there's some additions. I know this wall, the rear wall, and about half of the side walls are existing, but a lot of the front facade will be reworked. I'm not entirely sure how much additional square footage is being added, but it's a minimal amount, and they're well under the allowed building coverage.
Okay, because I thought it was actually quite a bit more that was being added onto the front of that.
The architect might be able to answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Jury? Hearing none, would the applicant like to come forward? If you could give Karen your name.
Thank you, Chair. Jeff Skidmore with Schlegel and Associates. Here along with Guy Gromberg from Guy Gromberg Architects as well. Be happy to answer any questions. The building is actually a little under 4,500 square feet right now, the existing Quick Trip, and it's proposed to be expanded to about 9,000.
So you're about doubling the size.
A little over doubling the size.
That's what I had in my head, yeah.
You are correct. We are in agreement with the staff stipulations. Nothing really to present further beyond what Nathan's already presented. We appreciate his assistance this evening, but we would be glad to stand for any questions that anybody has.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? I gather not. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other conversation or anything from the commissioners? Hearing none? Yes? Okay.
I was just going to say, I think this is a great addition, and I am really pleased by the fact that this isn't going to look like a reused Quick Trip when we get done. Mm-hmm. I really like what they've done with it.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice addition to that area. Okay. So I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner?
Go ahead.
I move that SPDR 09186576 with the 2 conditions be approved as submitted by staff.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carried. There are 2 conditions. You included those? Okay, thank you very much. All right, now we're going to go to public hearings. Let me read the instructions, the guidelines for a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing. I'm going to call for exhibits from our city attorney. The staff will make their presentation. We can ask questions. The applicant will then make their presentation. And of course, the commissioners can also ask questions again at that time. I'll call witnesses in favor, then witnesses in opposition to it. We'll have some general discussion, and then I'll close the public hearing. Since we have quite a few, we're going to hear these all together, since they're all basically with the same item. But I want you to know that when I call people up to speak, if you could make sure that we don't have just repetition of the same comments, that would be very helpful. So we're going to make sure that everybody gets in that would like to say whatever they'd like to say tonight. And yes, sir, did you have something you would like to say?
I was just going to add that to assure the audience that after you get up and give your testimony in either support of or opposition to the proposed project, staff will be writing down all of the issues that are raised. And then once all of the public testimony has taken place, then staff and the applicant will answer the questions or address the issues that are raised after all of the testimony has been presented.
That's rather than go one after each one speaks, so that we aren't, and commissioners, we're going to be doing the same thing. We'll wait till after everybody gets done, and then we can ask questions, okay? All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and if you mess up, don't worry, I do too, so. I'm going to open the public hearing for the rezoning of Charlie's Car Wash, and I'll also open the public hearing for the conditional use permit, and I will call for the exhibits from our attorney.
Madam Chairman, I offer the following exhibits into the record for rezoning RZ 09186578. Exhibit 1, staff report with attachments. 2, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on September 22, 2018. 3, application with attachments. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title IV Land Use Section Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference, and I'm adding Exhibit 9, the applicant's PowerPoint, which will be marked. And for the conditional use permit CUP 09186581, I offer the following exhibits into the record. 1, staff report with attachments. 2, affidavit of publication in the Examiner on September 22, 2018. 3, application with attachments. 4, 185-foot notification map. 5, names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. 6, copy of the letter sent to said property owners. 7, Title IV Land Use Section Blue Springs Code of Ordinances by reference. 8, 2014 Comprehensive Plan by reference. And I'm adding Exhibit 9, the applicant's PowerPoint. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wright.
All right, thank you, Chairman Banks and Commissioners. Before you this evening are 5 requests for the Charlie's Car Wash, which covers 3.04 acres, which is generally located at the northeast corner of I-70 and 7 Highway Interchange. The subject property is currently zoned GB General Business and includes a hotel property that has been vacant for several years. The total hotel site covers approximately 5.02 acres, but 4 of the 5 items only cover a portion of the area. Only the preliminary plat will cover the 5.02 acres that includes the entirety of the hotel property. So you can see the boundaries here highlighted on above does not include the rear 1.5 acres or so on the back side of the hotel. The first request is for a rezoning of the 3.04 acres from GB General Business to RC Regional Commercial, which would allow the development of a car wash with approval of a conditional use permit. The 2014 Comprehensive Plan designates the property as corridor reinvestment, and the area plan designates the property as general commercial. The general commercial area is intended to accommodate large-scale non-retail service or office uses that cannot easily be accommodated in or cannot be accommodated or are not compatible with mixed-use areas. This future land use is in agreement with the intent of the RC zoning district, which is intended to accommodate retail and commercial land uses that serve community and regional needs and is appropriate adjoining a major highway. Since the creation of the regional commercial zoning district in 2000, most rezonings to the RC zoning district have been concentrated along the frontage roads of I-70, as these are generally the corridors most appropriate for land uses that provide retail and service uses that draw from beyond the community, which are generally limited to lodging and auto-oriented uses. There are 9 review criteria for rezoning applications. Staff does find that the proposed rezoning meets all the review criteria that are outlined in the staff report. The proposed rezoning does meet the intent of the comprehensive plan, the future land use map designations, both the overall land use plan as well as the area plan, as well as the Unified Development Code. The second request before you is a conditional use permit, which covers, again, the 3.04 acre site to allow the development of a car wash. The applicant, Charlie's Car Wash, has submitted a site plan to develop a 13,200 square foot full service car wash. This square footage does include a tunnel car wash on the eastern portion of the property, a detailing center for 8 vehicles kind of in the center of the car wash, and then 16 vacuum stalls at the northwest corner of the car wash. As part of the development of the site, Jefferson Street is required to be relocated and shifted approximately 300 feet to the east of its current location. Currently, Jefferson Street runs along the western boundary of the property. It is proposed to be relocated to the east side of the car wash. This realignment will allow additional stacking space at 7 Highway and Shaw Parkway intersection, which will help improve traffic flow in that area. The realignment will also improve the traffic flow along Shaw Parkway as well as at the intersection. The main point of access for the site is along Shaw Parkway. That is the customer service entrance. That is where everybody utilizing the car wash, as well as the detailing center and vacuum stalls, will enter and exit. There's an additional second point of access down to the southeast corner of the site along the new Jefferson Street, but that will strictly be for the employees of the site. There are 27 stacking spaces for the automatic car wash, ranging, when you first enter, there are 2 lanes that eventually, as you come around the turn here, will turn into 3 lanes. That gets you to the payment kiosk here in the southeast or southwest corner of the site. Once you get through there, it does narrow back to 1 and 2 lanes, and then enters as a single lane into the car wash. Additional services for the vacuum stalls, there's a separate point of access for that, and then a separate point of access for the detailing center, therefore removing the traffic from the car wash lanes. The site will improve pedestrian facilities both off-site and on-site from what currently does exist. They're including an additional sidewalk along Shaw Parkway, on the south side of Shaw Parkway, as well as a new pedestrian sidewalk on the east side of the new Jefferson Street. There will also be direct pedestrian access from Shaw Parkway into the facility, primarily for customers, which will go into the main entrance, as well as pedestrian access from the employee parking lot up to the entrance as well. Bike racks will also be installed on site. As the UDC does not have any parking standards for vacuum stations, detailing centers, and employees for car washes, the applicant has provided a parking memo that outlines the parking for this site in comparison to other sites that they have in the region, including a couple of sites in Wichita, as well as sites in the Northland, Lee Summit, and Independence. There are 16 vacuum stalls total and 16 parking spaces for the detail shop, in addition to the 20 parking spaces for the employees in the south lot. Staff does find the review criteria for approval of the conditional use permit has met for the proposed use of the subject property, as it would further the intent of the requested zoning district, which is regional commercial. The site can also meet the requirements of the Unified Development Code, and staff does believe that this will have a positive impact on the public realm through the proposed infrastructure and traffic improvements that will be made by the applicant to Shaw Parkway and Jefferson Street. The third request is for a site plan design review for the 3.04 acre site. This is for a full service car wash. The proposed car wash development Meets all the building coverage, height, and setback requirements for the general commercial building type. Accessory structures, including the payment kiosk, canopy, and the vacuum system building, are located behind the front building line and at least 8 feet from any street-facing property lines. The applicant has proposed an alternative compliance landscape plan. The site is required 1,231 plant units based on the street frontages, landscape buffers, parking requirements, and total size of the site for open space. However, the applicant is requesting to provide 959 plant units, which is a reduction of 272 units. Staff does believe that this reduction in landscaping is warranted, given that all property lines are buffers and much of the interior of the site is impervious surface. To warrant this reduction, the applicant is increasing the size of all shade trees from 2-inch caliper to 3-inch caliper, which based on tree credits would represent an increase of 102 plant units, which would leave the site short 170 plant units. To make up for the shortfall in the 170 plant units, the applicant is installing a decorative masonry retaining wall along much of the I-70 and 7 highway frontage. Included with that would be a welcome sign feature that would be facing the interchange. Staff does believe that the added landscape feature of the masonry wall and the signage will enhance the site. The applicant has provided a mix of shade and ornamental trees along all street frontages, with particular attention given to the Shaw Parkway frontage as well as the Jefferson Street frontage, for added buffer between less intensive land uses to the north and east. Access drives and parking areas are also screened from street frontages. All the parking areas are screened, as well as areas where there would be oncoming headlights onto public streets. Those portions of the access drive and parking areas have been screened with shrubs that would provide a buffer between headlights and the street. A photometric plan has been submitted and appears that all proposed lighting does meet the UDC lighting standards and will be reviewed with the building permit process. A master alternative sign plan has been submitted for signage, which I'll get to later in the presentation. And then the proposed building again does include 13,200 square feet, full service car wash building, and the proposed building does meet the non-residential design guidelines. The single-story building is predominantly brick and ephes with a neutral color palette. In addition to the variation in building materials and colors, the applicant has also provided a variation in height and projections for added visual interest on the building. All facades do include windows or glass for transparency. Roof-mounted equipment is screened with parapet walls that will be designed with the building. And then the ground-mounted equipment will be screened with landscaping. There's a few sections here. And then the trash enclosure will be located at the northeast corner of the site, which will be screened with brick walls on 3 sides and metal gates on the front that will match the building. The fourth request is for a preliminary plat for Charlie's Car Wash. This does include the 3.04 acre proposed car wash site, as well as a 1.22 acre for Lot 2, which will be located to the east of the relocated Jefferson Street, which is shown, just shown in the middle of the property here. The relocated Jefferson Street will align with Northwest 6th Terrace to the north. Lot 2 will maintain the GB General Business Zoning District, the zoning district as it currently exists, and is not proposed to be developed as part of the Charlie's development. The relocation of Northwest Jefferson Street is required to be completed prior to approval of the final plat for Charlie's Car Wash. During the time of construction of the new street, the existing street must remain open to provide limited interruption and access. The applicant must coordinate with MoDOT on the vacation of the existing Jefferson Street right-of-way, and that must be completed prior to approval of the final plat. A traffic study has been submitted and reviewed by engineering. As previously mentioned, sidewalks are required on Shaw Parkway and Jefferson Street and be constructed prior to approval of the final plat for Charlie's. Any sidewalk sections on private property must be located in a pedestrian access easement. Required landscape buffers must be installed prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the car wash building. And then lastly, stormwater detention and water quality improvements are not required for the site, as there will not be a net gain in impervious surface from what currently exists. The fifth and final request is for a master alternative sign plan for Charlie's Car Wash. With the parameters of the site being significant with the amount of street frontage, the property is allowed 3,773 square feet of signage. The applicant is proposing 1,041 square feet of signage, which is significantly less than what is permitted. Generally, all signage does meet the sign code, with the exception of 10 informational signs that exceed the maximum height and/or area. But staff does believe that that is warranted based on the auto-oriented use of the site and allowing signage that is readable from vehicles to help customers navigate through the site. Other signage including the wall signage. All 4 facades will have wall signage on them. All 4 facades are well below the 10% maximum for wall signs on the site. And then there will also be monument sign adjacent to the Shaw Parkway entrance shown here. This is another informational sign down in the lower right corner that will be over the help designate vehicles through the payment kiosk. There will also be a flagpole on the south side of the car wash that will meet all the standards for flags and flagpoles in the UDC. And then they're also proposing a 35-foot pole sign, which is allowed with the Planning Commission's approval in the I-70 corridor. All signage is cohesive in color and typeface to create visual uniformity throughout the site. Brick bases have also been added on most of the freestanding signs to tie in with the building design. Staff does believe the proposed master alternative sign plan is acceptable based on the location of the site, the land use, and the physical scale of the site. The proposed signage is also not out of character with the I-70 corridor. Staff does recommend approval of the rezoning, approval of the conditional use permit with 4 conditions, approval of the site plan design review with 9 conditions, approval of the preliminary plat with 4 conditions, and approval of the master alternative sign plan with 3 conditions. As the Planning Commission is the decision-making body on all applications in this case except for the rezoning, staff has made it a condition of all applications that if the Planning Commission does approve the applications, the approval be rescinded if the requested rezoning is denied by City Council. That concludes staff's presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Wright? Commissioner Billups?
Mr. Wright, I know we looked at a similar application to this on this site some time ago.
2014.
Was it that long ago?
2014.
Doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
I believe it was August 2014.
Have, in the interim between those 2 plans, and this may not be a fair question, and I'm sorry, has there been any other interest in any other kind of development on this site?
We had a pre-application back in fall of 2015, so it's been about 3 years from a different developer. Just they had a very preliminary layout, but we never heard back from them again. And I think they were having a hard time getting the financing to work on the property to meet their needs. But since that time, we have not heard from any other. We've not had any other pre-applications on this property before Charlie's came in.
Okay, and if I could jump to the plat, the lot 2 that we're leaving on the undeveloped in this plat with the GB zoning. If I'm measuring that correct, it's about 100 feet deep or 100 feet wide.
Yeah, it's a fairly shallow lot from Jefferson.
Is that actually deep enough to actually develop anything on it? Or are we creating some kind of an orphan there that's never going to be developable?
It could still be a developable lot. It would just be a very narrow building, but it could still be developed, meeting the setback requirements.
Because it seems very, very narrow. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner?
Mr. Wright, can you speak to the traffic study as far as traffic counts? Any expected increase in traffic?
I believe the applicant has their traffic engineer here, and they might be able to speak more to that, or our city engineer also has reviewed that, if he
Thank
wants
you,
to
Mr.
weigh
Wright.
in on any of that.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Casey?
Mr. Wright, how long has this lot been vacant now?
It appears that the last time that the previous hotel, the Econo Lodge, was there, their business license expired in 2015. So it's at least been vacant that long.
And do you happen to have the numbers of how many car washes we currently have north of I-70?
We have,
I'm seeing 3 in the audience. Oh, I see 1, 4.
This makes 4.
This, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Wright, I know that in 2014, this was basically the same company that we saw then. And the plan, I'm trying to recall, the plan then was they were just going to take the whole thing, they were going to cut it off and change the Jefferson. Is that correct? I don't know if you can recall.
yeah, I believe
They've just changed the name.
this plan here is fairly similar to what was proposed in 2014.
Okay.
So they were still proposing to the same size lot, basically. They'd still realign Jefferson Street and retain a smaller lot off to the east side. The main differences here, which the applicant may be able to speak to why they made some of the changes, was that they removed this access off of Jefferson Street, and then pushed the car wash slightly to the east, and moved all the circulation off of Shaw Parkway, to prevent it from going all the way over to Jefferson.
Okay. I'll ask the applicant other questions. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Would the applicant like to come forward? They need to be sworn in, sir.
Yes.
Right there.
Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the testimony about to give in this case and give the truth, so help you
Yes, I do.
God. Need your name and address.
Donald Booz, 500 Graves Boulevard, Salina, Kansas. And since my PowerPoint is over there, I suggest that I present from
Yes,
over there.
thank
Right.
you.
Good evening. My name's Don Booz. I'm Director of Real Estate with Blue Beacon International. And with me tonight, we have Lindy Meyer-Beyer with Cadence Commercial Real Estate. She's our Kansas City area real estate broker. Ken Garten is here. He's our local Blue Springs real estate attorney. We have David Eichman, our civil engineer from Olson Associates, and then Tom Fulton, the technical leader of the traffic engineering team at Olson Associates, and obviously here to discuss the subject development. But the issue came up about the 2014 application. We chose to withdraw that application in 2014 given the neighbors' objections. And we also just didn't feel at the time that people knew our company very well on this side of the state line. And so since then, well, about that time, our location in Independence had just opened. And then about a year later, we opened our Lee Summit location. So we felt there's been more time for people to be aware of our operation. And both have performed very, very well. And so we see further demand in East Jackson County for another full-service car wash. We wanted to do something different this time. It's obviously set for 4 years. The listing agent that has it for the bank that foreclosed on it is the same listing agent that had it in 2014 when we placed it under contract. And he said he's had 3 people attempt the redevelopment exercise, but given the cost of the demolition, along with the cost, because the developer has to absorb the cost of the Shop Parkway relocation, which includes the demolition of the original Shop Parkway, and then the fact that you wind up with a small parcel on Lot 2 that's actually 120 feet from property line to right-of-way. That's not very developable is why most people have walked away. They just cannot make the numbers work. But again, this time, what we did, actually the day after we placed the property under contract, I didn't come to City Hall and talk to planning. I contacted the Homes Association for Country Club Homes Association and asked if I could come talk to a board meeting or a group to talk about our renewed interest in the property. And a couple of weeks thereafter, they invited me to a meeting. There was probably somewhere between 20 and 30 people there, and it was a lively discussion. Many of them didn't want to see us come back to the lot, and I understood. But we thought, well, maybe we can do something to make it a little better. And so I promised that after meeting with the city and revising our development plan, that we would schedule a meeting to meet with them again prior to any public hearing. And on September 24th, we rented a meeting room at the Courtyard by Marriott meeting facility and we sent out close to 500 invitations, everybody in the residential area west of the property. And we had, I'm going to say, 80, 90 show up, maybe that was my estimate. But again, a pretty lively discussion. And you'll hear from the people tonight how they felt about it. With that, I'll move forward. The Charlie's, somebody at the homeowners discussion said, well, Charlie's, they're the people that bought Green Lantern. Well, the actual Charlie's is Green Lantern. We decided to change the name earlier this year. Our founder had passed away. He had an untimely death in 2012. And we wanted to keep his memory alive. Those of us that knew him thought he was just a terrific individual. He had a 9th grade education, left school to work in a steel mill in Colorado. After they went to the Air Force, got out of the Air Force, and he started one business, then another, and at the time of his death, he owned the largest truck wash company in the world, had 5,000 employees. Some days I wonder what would have happened if he went to 10th grade, but he was just a wonderful individual, and we thought this would be a good way to honor his memory. The companies have been in business since 1973, so 45 years. The largest company is the Blue Beacon Company that operates in 39 states in Canada. Lighthouse is our hotel company. Most of the people in Kansas City are aware we own the Raphael Hotel and the Country Club Plaza. I won't speak too much about that, but it is an award-winning hotel, considered the top hotel in the Kansas City area. It leads the market in terms of rate and occupancy. We bought it in 2005. We spent several years renovating it. We went to the inside of the outside brick. When we do things, we do them right. Later, we decided to affiliate with the Autograph Collection of Marriott, and that's a group of very distinctive boutique hotels that maintain their initial name, but they're still part of the Marriott system. Since joining the system in 2011, we've been in the top 5 Marriott autographs in the world. 3 of those years, #1 in the world. In addition, we've been named as one of the top 500 in the hotels in the world. That's out of 60-some thousand hotels, and one of the top 100 in North America. We also have a Hilton in Wichita. It's a Homewood Suites by Hilton. We built it in 2006. It's been one of the top 5 Hilton Homewood Suites in the world since we opened it. As with Marriott, these awards are not just that you're financially successful, it's customer satisfaction, it's product quality, it's inspections, it's quality of hirings, etc. And we're currently, Hilton just came out with a new award for their best owners that perform well in terms of quality of product and guest expectation and guest stay. And we were awarded one of those here just back in April. We have another Hilton under construction in our hometown of Salina. And the reason I always like to mention the hotels is because what we like to talk about in our car washes is the high quality of the car wash. And so maybe it's hard to understand how much higher quality that we are, but it's the same policy manual, it's the same HR department, we have the same level of due diligence in our hiring. We have people that, scores of people that have been with us 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. This year we had somebody who made 44 years they've been with us. And that's just a sign of the quality of the company. And if our standards exceed those of Marriott and Hilton, it's those same standards and commitment to excellence that we carry forward into the Charlie's Car Wash. I believe most of you are aware of our location in Lee Summit. Here's just a quick picture. Another picture here of the Lee Summit. I do want to point out the quality of the landscaping and how well we take care of it. A little aside there, most of that green space in front of us is actually state right-of-way. We maintain it at our expense. We asked MoDOT for that right. We asked for the right to irrigate it, just to take care of it. So we maintain not just ours, but the adjacent property. In this particular property, this was the Dave Cross Buick dealership that we acquired and demolished. And so to redevelop it, it took the consent of Red Development that developed Summit Fair Shopping Center there, and it took their anchor tenant's consent. So we had to work with Red Development, and then I actually had to get approval from Macy's headquarters in New York and from JCPenney headquarters in Dallas. And after reviewing our plans and investigating the company, all three approved our plans. Wait, let's go back. I did want to point out the Red Lobster adjacent to us in an Olive Garden. So just because we're a car wash doesn't mean we can't exist next to high quality other development. There was a vacant lot just north of us that's now a Dick's Sporting Goods that came after we built. And then there was a Bank of the West, a 2-story bank building just northwest of us that's now been demolished. Another developer came in and saw the opportunity to improve that. It's going to open, or just has, as a Texas Roadhouse, and then they're building a Class A office building in addition. This is our Independence location. I think that's the closest one to this area. Again, high quality landscape, high quality building products, very well maintained. After we opened on our parcel, Old Chicago came, as did Slim Chickens in the main event. So once again, our being there didn't prohibit other development from taking place, and what came in was very high quality. In this picture, you might see the Cheddar sign in the left side. Cheddar's is adjacent to the east, and to the west, and that's one of their highest volume stores. They were there first, but again, we haven't hurt their sales or anything yet. We've brought and haven't inhibited any other further development. This is our newest location, just opened in Oklahoma City. It was the first one to open under the Charlie's name, and it's doing very well. So that's just a little bit of history on the car washes, and that they do wind up in higher end areas, and we see additional development that comes in. I can't say that we're responsible for it, but we certainly didn't keep them away. So here's just an aerial that of the existing conditions. I think staff did a good job of addressing those. On the site plan, 2 or 3 things I wanted to point out in addition to Matt's comments. On lot 2, you are right, it could be sitting there vacant for a long time, and we'll just be obligated to maintain it, and that's fine with us. On the landscape, on the northwest corner of lot 2, we're suggesting we go ahead and landscape that to coordinate and with what's on the west side of the relocated Jefferson Street. We don't get those plant unit credits on the other lot because it's not on that lot, but we're doing it because we think it's the right thing to do. And then with respect to the decorative retaining wall and sign, most jurisdictions would consider that landscaping. There's just not a point total given that in your ordinance, but in our discussions with staff, it seemed reasonable. And so that was our approach. We could do a much simpler retaining wall, but we thought a decorative one, since it's going to be a few hundred feet long, might be a better view. Also on Lot 2, Brenda Campbell's here tonight. Her sister Rebecca owned 2 of the lots immediately to the east of that Lot 2. And they couldn't make our homeowners association, so she contacted my office. And so I overnighted her all the materials so she could see what they were. And she's got a concern about the fence that's there currently on the hotel property that's adjacent to her backyard, basically. And it's not been maintained for years, and it's fairly obvious if you go by. And while that lot's not on tonight's application, outside of the preliminary plat, we do intend to rebuild that fence. Now, since it's not part of the application, we really haven't dealt with what that means. So in my mind, I thought we would do a better job of what's there. Brenda's asking for something quite a bit more extensive. We're happy to work with her on that, but I don't know. I just want to make that clear that we're here to talk to people about what they think will help and see what we can do. But we certainly will maintain and put something in there that's quite a bit better. As I move on, this is a rendering of the car wash building at our pay station. To show you some of the detail of the retaining wall and some of the signage. I do want to go back to the site plan. You asked about what was different from the 2014 plan. A lot of people of the area residents were just concerned about just it being a car wash. So can't really change that. That's what we do. But what we did do is relocated the vacuums, the guest vacuums, to the west side of the lot, which created now a 40-foot green space on the west side of the relocated Northwest Jefferson Street. So that just enhances the setback, if you will, and provided for more trees in there and additional landscaping along the back of the building. So from their side, they get a much better view, which I would like to think would be helpful. And then, as staff mentioned, the only traffic coming in and out from Jefferson would be the employee parking area. So back to the view, this would be our pay area and the main view of the building. This is the welcome sign that Matt talked about. Now this is the view that would be coming out of the subdivision. This is where Northwest Jefferson would intersect Shaw. And so you'd see nothing but green space between the curb and the building. And we didn't put all the trees in because we wanted you to see the building and then the landscape up close adjacent to the building. But that's a 40-foot dimension from curb to building. And then you see the lower seasonal plantings there right at the intersection, just to improve the aesthetics, basically. A little bit about the company. We have a no tipping policy, which some people find odd. If in the restaurant business, if you're able to, your staff can receive tips, you pay them a much lower wage. Well, same thing works in car washes. So by not tipping, we have to pay a much higher wage, and we tend to get a much higher quality employee, a much more loyal employee. We have a lot less turnover. A few other reasons, but in the interest of time, I won't get into that. But we expect the neighborhood of 50 employees, probably a few more. All employees, whether you work 5 hours a week or 40 hours a week, you qualify for 401k with a 4% match. And all employees, again, whether 5 hours a week or 40, you qualify for our employee savings plan. We have a lot of young people that work for us, so we feel we have a teaching opportunity, and our employers feel like they've been very blessed in their lives, and they want to help young people. And we think one of the most important things they can learn is the value of saving money. And so if they take money out of their paycheck, and we pay weekly on Thursdays, we pay 10% interest on their savings, up to $199 in interest a year. And that applies to me, it applies to the brand new employee. And surprisingly, only about 56% or so of the people take advantage of that. But we think it's good for them to see that grow every week. Full-time employees, which for us is 30 hours, have a health insurance program that costs a single employee is about $18 a week, and that's full coverage. It's actually an excellent plan, same plan I'm on. And then we pay 100% of the cost of short and long-term disability for all employees at 30 hours or more. We're also a drug-free workplace. We drug test at application, and then we random drug test forever. I've been random drug tested 4 times. We treat everybody the same. No, it doesn't matter what state they're in, what job they have, whether they're a hotel employee, a truck wash employee, a car wash employee, or a home office. So we think we've got a fine company. We'd love to be part of the Blue Springs community. We build excellent buildings. We maintain them. We hire very well. We think we're very good at what we do, as exhibited in our Marriott and our Hilton, best in the world in those 2 cases, and we try to be the best in the world at the car washes as well, and that's our commitment. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions. We do have Tom Fulton here, the traffic expert from Olson Engineering. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll let the commissioners go first. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner?
Just out of curiosity, how many employees will you be retaining, and will you be hiring locally, or will they be transferring from other locations?
We may we'll probably bring a manager in who's already trained. But outside of that, we try to hire local. We'll have a job fair in the area. I don't know where, but that's typically what we do. We bring in people from various locations to train the 2 weeks before opening and probably 2 weeks after, but these should be Blue Springs jobs.
Okay, maybe I think he asked about how many employees.
Oh, how many employees? As I said in the
Springs
presentation,
employees.
be 50, probably a little more.
Okay, just a minute. I think there was a question down here first.
Yeah, I'm trying to phrase my questions here. When you were here before, I'm not at all questioning the quality of your company. Please understand that. I'd much rather see you build one of your hotels on this corner, because they're beautiful. And I'm not knocking a car wash, because we have approved just recently a car wash last week even. I just question why you think this is the best location for one here in Blue Springs.
We have a pretty sophisticated model that we use that's a combination of demographics, traffic, employers' growth, quality of schools, and this. Honestly, we had that other side under contract. In fact, we owned the hard corner and sold it to Quick Trip, and because it didn't meet our standard, because we already closed on the corner, but we hadn't closed on the Ponderosa piece. It did not meet our standard. But this one does, so it's very complex how we underwrite, but this one came up ideal, just like 470 and 40.
If I remember right, and I don't remember if you were the person who was here making the presentation before, we had quite a conversation about a car wash being a regional draw and pulling cars off the highway. And are you still of the opinion that that's what's going to happen here? Is that we're going to pull cars off the highway and generate tax dollars for Blue Springs?
No, but they see us there every day. They know we're there, so when they do want the service, they do. But it does have an impact on the people that have our Quick Pass, our RFID Unlimited program. Let's say they bought their membership in Overland Park, but they're this part of town. Oh gosh, they see it. They're going to go ahead and get their car washed there. I'm going to say we think now we're the first one of these opened in 2002 in Liberty, so we've got some history now. Not like we do on the truck wash side, but about 50% of our business is destination, but 50% of it's impulse. And you're right, people on an impulse don't stop on the highway and jump in, but it's that constant visibility of building the brand and building the identity.
It's high traffic.
Well, it has to be a high traffic to make it
For cars.
work.
I will tell you, 2 of the 3 people that looked at it were hotel developers, and they could not get the numbers to work, and it wouldn't meet our hotel criteria. It's just the market, Eastern Jackson County hotel market is soft.
Okay. Commissioner Fairbanks, you had a question?
It was about whether or not they had considered a hotel owner instead of a car wash.
Yes, I'd love to see you take the hotel and redo it like you did the others.
Yeah, it would not underwrite.
All right, any other questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner?
Mr. Booz, could I speak to the Olson traffic engineer
Sure.
about traffic counts? As long as everybody is done with your testimony.
And do you have any more questions for?
Well, I'm not going anywhere, so.
All right, thank you. You'll need to be sworn in, sir.
You sound sworn in testimony about the this case and the truth and
I do. Tom Fulton, our office is at 7301 West 133rd Street, Overland Park, Kansas, 66213. The question was traffic increase. Basically, for a car wash of this size, we use in our ITE trip generation manuals, you could expect between 70 and 80 trips, 70 being during a PM 1-hour peak period in the PM and during a weekday, and then a typical Saturday 11 to 1. For that 1 hour, you'd probably expect almost 80 trips. That's a combination of the ones coming in as well as the ones leaving this facility in that 1 hour.
Okay, using what was, and this is under the label of GHA Ewald Hamilton Associates, which was a traffic count that was done on Route 7 Shaw Parkway Thursday, September 13th of this year. And they had in their Shaw Parkway eastbound, which would have been all traffic eastbound on Shaw Parkway, as 321 cars in a 4 to 6 p.m. Coverage time. Can you add, would you anticipate more than 321 cars that will be accessing eastbound Shaw?
So our study period typically is during a PM peak. We look from hours of 4 to 6. We count for 2 hours, which our sub did to count what was out there now. From that information, our engineers takes that and we find a 1 hour window within that 2 hours that we study. So essentially, we're going to add 70 to 80 trips to that count that you just discussed.
Per hour, correct?
Per that 1 hour, yes.
Okay. All right, no further questions for me, Mr. Fulton. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question for someone, I'm sure which one, but I noticed in here somewhere mentions Blue Beacon car washes or truck washes.
Yes.
What is the association with Blue Beacon or?
Blue Beacon's
Charlie's
the
or
parent
whatever?
company. Charlie's is a wholly owned subsidiary.
Owned by Blue Beacon.
Mhm. Yes. Yep, I am a Blue Beacon employee.
Pardon?
I'm a Blue Beacon employee, but we will not wash trucks. They won't fit into our tunnel. We can't wash a dually pickup. We can't wash anything larger than like a Suburban. If an H2 comes through, we can't wash them. They won't fit. So we have vehicles. It's not uncommon for us to let somebody know. Or if it's a very low-sitting car that has maybe a custom front, I forget what they call it, the profile or something. We can't wash those either. So or there's certain specialty wheels. So we will catch those before they get there, and we'll direct them out.
Any other questions?
I have another question.
Mr. Fairbanks?
Are you aware that Quick Trip at 40 and 7 has just gotten a car wash approved?
Yes.
And you still feel that there's sufficient demand to meet the requirements for your,
Yes.
to make it successful?
Yeah, we're still the only, actually in the whole Kansas City area, the only real full-service operator with the interior cleaning, multiple locations, and we have close to, I'm thinking we're close to 30,000 members on our unlimited program. That includes Wichita, but we've got a pretty loyal customer base.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I guess not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I will call for witnesses in favor. You will need to be sworn in. I'll call your names, and if you'll come up. And it's just random, you know. So I have here Brenda Campbell. And if you will, you'll need to be sworn in.
Great, Brandon, you sound swear that the testimony about to give in this case is the truth, so
Hi. I'm Brenda Campbell. My sister and I both own the properties that.
Okay, just a moment. You need the address, your address?
My home address. These are both duplexes. The property addresses are 1109, 1111, 1113, and 1115 Northwest 6th Street. They're directly behind the car wash.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, and my sister and I own them together, so she can't be here this evening, but I'm really in favor of it. 4 years ago, I was not. I thought, it's a mistake, it'll be loud, we'll hear the vacuum cleaners, but they addressed that by moving those to the front. But mostly we want it because of what's there now. We've had so many problems with that hotel. I've talked to the police, city council, I talked to Dale, our councilman. I've talked to the owner of the bank that owns it. The old fence that's there is rotten, and when wind comes through, the fence falls down. There are constantly vagrants. We find needles, bedding, stolen purses, credit cards, all this ends up in our backyard. We've even had tenants call and say, I can't get out of my driveway. Somebody's sleeping in the driveway right behind my house. And I mean, this is what we're living with. I mean, it got so bad that I stayed down there. I parked illegally in the law office and just watched how many people were coming through that fence. And they just come back there. Who knows what they were doing? Probably, shooting up. I don't know what they were doing. But they all gather right at the gas station across the street about dusk. They figure out, oh, it's going to get dark. Well, they provide security there, but that guy just drives through once in a while. He's not there watching all this. So I sit there and watched as they came through, and I wanted to film it, but I couldn't. My camera was too far away. But I bet you there were at least 10 to 15 people in and out of there. And then after that, we went to rehab one of the units completely, knew everything. And we had the fence blow down. I was calling to get somebody to fix it. It took about a month. In the meantime, these cars would sit there and observe our duplex, watch when people are coming, going, figured out when they have free access. They got in, broke in, stole everything. Every light fixture, every toilet, they took the hot water heater. They even took the leftover tiles that we saved, to repair with. They took that, everything. My John Deere lawnmower. But it got to where we just can't live with it anymore. I mean, it's just, you have no idea. I mean, I can't, if you've got a property you're so worried about, you can't even sleep at night. This car wash looks like a jewel. It looks like, thank you, it's like a godsend. So that's where we are on it. Okay. And if you have any questions of me, I'd be glad to answer them. But I do have issues with the fence, because as long as they can see through there, and a lot of them are used to it. They've been doing it for years. Mm-hmm. This has been their home. And it's hard to stop that. But that's why we were really wanting a wall, more of something you cannot see through. You can't pull boards off of. Just block it off. And that's what I spoke to Mr. Booz about, and I'm not sure, we haven't come to an agreement, but the wood fence is just not It just doesn't cut it. It just doesn't. I've seen them pull the boards off. But the stuff we'd find in our backyards is unbelievable. I mean, and these properties, they're, between these two, we're talking about $500,000. These aren't junk properties. So it's a shame, is what it is. And when we bought them, we had no idea. The hotel was still in existence then. We had to deal with Mr. Patel, the owner of the hotel, and we didn't get very far with him either. But he wouldn't fix the fence either. So,
do you think that with it being torn down, that the fence would be as much of an issue as it would be right now?
Well, I'd hate to risk it, tell you the truth, because I've seen it so long and just so consistently destroyed. When you have people that are used to living in your backyard, it's hard to break that habit. I mean, we'd find pillows, we'd find tents, just bedding laying there on the floor where they sleep. They just curl up and sleep. But when you have tenants that call and say, I can't even get out of my garage, I can't get out the driveway to go to work, what am I supposed to do? Yeah. Well, I tell somebody here said, well, just tell them to run over them. They're on your property. Oh yeah, well that's not the answer. But it needs to be addressed. I mean, seriously, it's driven us crazy. I mean, we're to the point we had it. In fact, we even put one of them up for sale, and we had a firm offer of $2.25, but he wanted us to finance it, and we didn't want to finance it. So. But then we took it off the market because we had to, anytime you have it off the market, you're losing rent. So we decided to go ahead and rent it again. But
well, let me ask does anybody have any questions? And we're going to make sure that we're going to write down all the pros and cons. And then at the end, we're going to come back and address all these, all right?
Okay.
I really appreciate you.
I have a question for him.
Okay. Well, we're going to write them down. We're going to cover all the pros and cons at the end. You want to go ahead and do that way? Or you want to go ahead?
We can go ahead and have
Okay.
commissioners, if they have a question,
For her.
want us to write it down,
Okay.
then staff will keep a running list of them.
Okay.
So.
Go ahead and ask if you want.
Is it the case that you're not necessarily a proponent for the car wash because you're happy about them?
the hotel has to go.
Is
I
it-
don't see anybody else has the deep enough pockets to pull this off and do a good job.
Well, my case in point is that it sounds like you would just like to see something there other than what's already there because it's an eyesore and problematic for you. Is that your case in point?
That's basically it. But I do think this is a responsible company. I've talked to this gentleman enough times, and he said they want to be good neighbors. If there's a problem, he said call me. I mean, not very many car washes that go in are going to, guys going to go, oh, well, call me if you got a problem. They're going to be like, we don't care. Call the police. Call somebody else. We aren't going to deal with that. So, I mean, I am impressed with the way they seem, I trust them. I mean, I really do. And I know a lot of people object to it. I know there's a lot more people objecting, but, we have a lot invested in it too. So I don't know how many, there's another duplex there, but I don't know if those people are here. I don't even know who they are, but there's two duplexes, there's three right along this same road on 6th Street. And we own the two, and the other one kind of sits at an angle. So it really doesn't abut the property like ours does. But.
Any other questions? Okay.
Are the people that you're talking about, are these homeless people that are coming over?
I would assume they are, because if they had homes, I would assume they'd be there.
Well, you
but,
said they congregated at the gas station.
Right, they congregate. You'll see them coming up with their little carts.
And they come from where?
The gas station that sits right across across on Shaw, on the corner of Shaw
So
and
Phillips 66.
Yes, is that on Phillips? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You'll see them gathering there before it gets dark, and they'll stand around and be chatting and just I don't know, talking about what they're going to do that night, I guess. And then you'll see them all starting heading that way. As soon as it gets dark, they make their way across the street. They'll go in, break into the place, and have a place to sleep. Then we complain, so they'll come out, slap a big piece of plywood up, which is very attractive. I mean, that's their answer. That's what the hotel's been doing. When somebody breaks in, they slap up another piece of plywood. It just looks like a big mess. I mean, it looks like a ghetto.
So these people that are coming over onto your property, they're going to the hotel first.
They go there, and if they can get in easily, they'll stay there. But if they're having troubles or they think, the fence is broken again, we're going to go there. And I found at least 4 handbags nice handbags. You know, mostly stuff's missing. Weird stuff is still in there, but I mean, they were stolen, obviously. We found needles. You know, we rent to people with kids. I mean, you know, you've got people doing drugs in your backyard. It's not very conducive to a
The
family.
police haven't been receptive at all.
Oh, yeah, the police have come out. They said there's nothing they can do. You know, they'll come out and they'll go, yeah, we see the problem.
If they're trespassing on your property, it seems like there would be some.
Well, they'll leave. Before the police get there, they scatter. They scatter. They'll be gone. We'll sit out front, wait for the police. Police get there, they leave their stuff, but they're not there. So, I mean, they're smart. I mean, they're like roaches. They're, you know, if the light comes on, they're going to run. You know, they're not, they're smart. I mean, they don't want to get caught, I guess. But it's a problem. And I'm hoping that the car wash, I didn't even ask, is it well lit? Do you know? Okay.
There's a limit about how many.
Right. But it would be lit, so.
If you're going to ask him questions, you'll need to come
Oh,
up
I'm
here,
sorry.
because
I'm sorry.
otherwise it's not on record.
I'm sorry.
But we're going to do that after.
Okay, that's
So we'll
my
write
bad.
down about the question.
It just occurred to me because I
Right.
thought, but yeah, that's the way it is. I mean, like I said, I've spent 2 nights over there just sitting there and all night long. Because I just was interested, number one, and number two, I thought the place will get broken into, because at that point there was no one in there, and that's right after they took, you know, everything. And they sit there in that lot and watch, and then they always have a lookout sit there.
Okay.
So when they're in there robbing, the lookout's over here in the parking lot, and so when they see a car go by, they tell them, and then they take off.
I appreciate you coming forward, and we'll take all of it in consideration.
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I will now call in support of is it John Jacobson? And if you could make sure that you get sworn in and give your address, and not to repeat what you might have already heard. Thank you.
I'm sorry to testimony about the events committee.
I do. My name is John Jacobson. I reside at 7.
Not so loud.
I'm sorry.
What's that? Wait a minute. Stand back just a little bit.
I thought I had an old audience here.
Yeah, it's really blaring into his ear back there. You got a good voice.
Thank you. Okay, my name's John Jacobson. We reside at 1705 Northwest Oak Circle on the north side of Country Club Gardens, and have lived there since 1971. So we're not new to the block or anything else. I, for one, am completely in favor of Charlie's Car Wash for more than one reason. When I found out that there was a possibility that we could tear down the dump that's there right now and do whatever it would be, make a park or whatever, and then Charlie's Car Wash came into being, I researched as much as I could all of the things I could about the company in Salina, Kansas. I have a lot of friends in Salina, and I found this out. We all pride ourselves in the fact that Quick Trip is one top-notch employer. I find out that Charlie's Car Wash is on the same level as Quick Trip. Quick Trip has been very successful in this town. In fact, so successful they moved from Vesper down to 40 Highway and built a bigger building so they can employ more people. But the thing about Charlie's Car Wash is we as a city and as citizenry have to get rid of that eyesore that's at that corner. And I realize that presents a lot of problems for a lot of people. And I realize it's been 4 years, which seemed like a long time, since this first was brought up to the planning board, and at that time was tabled, I guess. At that time, I was not involved. But this time, we had a meeting on September 24th. I came forth and said I was completely in favor of this. Many of our neighbors and many of our friends were there, and we left that with this in mind. At least my feeling of that was. There's other things we'd like to see there, but a car wash is not a no-no.
It's a positive for the area. It's a positive for the city. It employs people. It gives taxes back to the city of Blue Springs. The big issue that all of us had at that meeting was traffic considerations. And since that meeting on the 24th of September, Olson and Associates made this traffic impact study, which I have a copy of, which I know went to all of you people on the planning board. And I hope you're faster readers than I am, because I spent a lot of time studying this. And at the end of the day, I have no problem with Olson's study. The problem that I have, even though I'm in favor of this car wash, is what happens to the traffic that's within the country club gardens. Everybody that lives out there, uses the streets to get back and forth from wherever we're going to wherever we're headed. And we find that 6th Street has now become almost an arterial highway. You get off at Sharp Parkway, you go down to the corner of 6th, you turn left and you fly through in front of the country club, you go right out the north side, and we find on the north side there's a whole bunch of duplexes, 14 cars parked on the street every day, but it doesn't make any difference. At 5 o'clock at night when traffic comes down 7 Highway, they get off at the Country Club Gardens entrance, they come down that street, they go to 6th Street, they go out to Duncan Road, or they go down Gulfview and they get off at the first street they can find an opening to get back on Duncan Road, and they're gone. The issue with the traffic problems is really, really large in that area. And now, this is a great addition to Vesper, but how many of you have driven down not Vesper, but to Jefferson. But how many of you have driven east or west coming from the east end of Jefferson, or going to the east end of Jefferson, and taking your life in your hands as the street sits like this? People can roll a car out there, people can roll off in the ditch, drive down there some morning at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever time they pick up kids on buses, and try to pass on that, not pass a car, just pass the buses and get through that area. So my main concern is now not with the fact that I think Charlie's Car Wash is wonderful, but I think we as a city, we as a group, have a terrible, terrible traffic problem in the Country Club Gardens. We have North Outer Road, which west of 7 Highway is all curbed and guttered and storm sewered and everything. East of 7 Highway, it looks like some kind of a country road that I know they went out there recently and added some more blacktop to it, but all that did is raise it up a little more so you could fall off further if you fall off either side of the road. So I'm in favor of Charlie's Car Wash. I think they're a great employer. I think they'd be a great addition to the city, but we do have some traffic issues that we have to address. And whether this car wash is going to cause these cars to come out of the car wash, go to Jefferson, turn that way and go east on Jefferson, now you've got an issue going down Jefferson, okay? I have a concern that at that corner, you're probably going to need a stoplight sometime in the near future because of the traffic considerations, and particularly when kids are getting on the bus at the corner of 6th Terrace, which the bus cannot go down 6th Terrace and pick up kids because it can't make a turn. I have suggestions for that, to be widening that north side of the street, let the bus pull over a little bit, but that's a whole nother ball game for another day, I guess. So I am in favor of it. I hope that we get Charlie's Car Wash as a neighbor, and I hope at the same time we as a city and we as a citizenry can address these horrible traffic issues that are in Country Club Gardens and really unsafe for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Ken Garten, is that correct? If you'll be sworn in.
So I swear to testify about in this case.
I do. My name is Ken Garten. My law office in this town is at 1600 Northeast Coronado Drive here in Blue Springs. My home is at 133 Northeast Gaslight Lane here in Blue Springs. I've lived in Blue Springs for many years, about 30. One thing about it was when Don Booz first called me, I was interested in finding out what our task was to get involved on their behalf. And let me make clear, I'm here as their representative. I am their counsel, and I'm paid, okay? But I also have some very personal thoughts and some thoughts from a professional standpoint that are, I think, germane to this. One thing about it, I think when you hear this gentleman talk, what I've come to realize, he represents a company. What you see is what you get. I'm so impressed with him. I'm so impressed with this company. I never learned so much about car washes in my life. You talk about the best hotels, you talk about the best truck washes, you talk about the best car washes, you talk about high standards. I buy it. And yeah, I'd like to see the Raphael Hotel put another Raphael Hotel there, somehow fit it on. I live in this town. I'd love to, hula hands, a double-decker with a Homewood Suites. It's been going on 4 years since we've had what we have. That's not going to happen. What I think is significant is this plan is going to greatly improve what I think is one of the worst traffic conditions in Blue Springs. And the beauty of it is, and I don't know if this is germane to this board or not, but I know it, I want to bring it up. They're not asking for any economic tax incentives or tax abatements for the property taxes. This is one chance our city has to get a blighted area remedied and not have to tell the school district, sorry, they don't have to pay any property taxes. They're going to pay full boat. So I think that is significant. I realize there's a sales tax issue. And again, I don't know if this is germane, but we have made it clear to the city, we're prepared to enter into an agreement in lieu of sales tax that ameliorates that too, if we can get approval for this development. To me, it's just a no-brainer. I don't want to go 4 more years like this. Okay? We need to do this. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Could you go into thank you, Madam Chair. Could you go into more detail about that agreement you just brought up? What are you talking about there?
Don? I think this is very significant. I was going to mention it, even though it's a city.
It's in Missouri, a car wash is a service and not a sale, so it doesn't generate sales tax. Same in Oklahoma, Kansas, it is a taxable sale. So we did the same thing in Oklahoma City. The 1% of the sales tax that's collected at large goes straight to the city. So what we told the city staff was we would obligate ourselves to pay 1% of sales in lieu of a sales tax to the city. So you get the same thing you would have had it been a taxable sale. We can't charge the customer because it's not a taxable sale, but the agreement would be such that we would pay that until such time as it became a taxable sale. I think some states are looking into making these things taxable like other states. But we feel like if we were to build here, we're invested in the community. It's a way for us to show some support and help pay some of the load outside of the ad valorem tax. As Ken said, that we're not asking for anything, and we're absorbing the cost of the street and all the demolition, et cetera.
Thank you.
Mr. Mallon, do you know that that's in writing with the city?
There has been no formal agreement reached between the city and Blue Beacon or Charlie's Car Wash. With the city staff is aware of the conversation of them offering to give us that additional revenue, but the final details of that agreement have not been worked out, pending the outcome of tonight's public hearing request and ultimately the city council approvals. So I imagine that would take place should the developments be approved, that the city would enter into those agreements.
Yeah, since we've already done that in other jurisdictions, we have a similar thing in Independence where regarding a CID where we contribute. Again, we can't charge our customers, but we have a small amount of sales that is taxable. We have a little lobby inside, so the people that are getting their interiors cleaned, if they buy soft drinks and snacks, then that is taxable, but that'll be a whopping $3,000 or $4,000 a month. It's not very much, but that is taxable, so it wouldn't apply to that.
Is that something that can be a condition?
Sure, from our perspective.
If agreeable to or with the applicant to that condition, I believe that's something with legal's interpretation that we could add as a condition of approval to one of the applications, probably the conditional use permit.
Okay. You can add conditions, yes, to the CUP.
That would be probably the most appropriate application to tie such an agreement to. And then, or maybe to the preliminary plat and final plat. But with the conditional use permit, we could add a condition. We can take some time over here and write something up and bring it back when we start addressing some of the other concerns. Just some sample language and throw it out there and see what you feel like about it. Okay.
Thank you.
Madam
Yes,
Chair?
yes. Just a
Did you want
moment.
to go first?
No, I was.
Okay, Commissioner Fairbanks, you're all pointing this way, so I'll.
Okay. The one question I had before that slipped my mind, do you recycle the water that you use for the car wash?
Some locations we do, some we don't. That's a fairly sophisticated analysis. We would get into the water testing before we'd make that decision. We typically, if you look at the drawing right there, let's see if I can figure this out. Very good. Okay. Oh, it's not working. Oh, touch the screen. I thought I'd use the mouse. Oh, okay. All right. Those boxes right there, those are underground. Those are recycled chambers. We put those in, but whether or not we activate them is a function of the quality of the water that's here. There's some jurisdictions you really can't because of what's in the water. But we don't get into that analysis till we get a little bit further in the process. But we have some that we do and some we don't.
Well, we have very high quality water here. A lot of our water is purchased from Independence.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have recycled
Independence,
water?
we do not recycle.
You do not?
Right.
So you have tested their water
Mm-hmm.
and it's not compatible?
No, sometimes it's a matter of not what's not in it, but what is. We have a whole environmental department. I actually don't conduct that testing, but if we need to recycle, then we do. If we don't, at the time, we don't, but we can always add because we put the infrastructure in, if that makes
So you
sense.
go ahead and add the infrastructure, just may or may not turn it on.
Yeah, essentially. We've had, in Wichita, we had the water sourcing changed after a facility opened, and it changed the water quality dramatically. It has to do with softness and hardness, dissolved solids, the amount of calcium in the water. So again, we've got a staff of people that explore that, so I don't want to misstate anything.
Well, I guess I'm just curious whether or not the city of Blue Springs has indicated that we have sufficient water for your service.
I think we've determined that we do with our investigation of the available utilities.
Okay? Thank you.
And we're a very efficient wash per car. The professional car wash uses quite a bit less car per gallon than perhaps somebody in their driveway, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Okay.
It's just like a dishwasher.
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Booz, could you tell me the trip count at the Lee Summit and the Independence businesses?
You know, they vary by day. Independence is busier than Lee Summit, which I really don't know off the top of my head, but I would say that Independence is probably in that 500 car a day average. That's over 13 hours. And then Lee Summit is less than that. I just don't recall what.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you, I guess on that. Okay, well, now we're gonna go in opposition. And like I said, if you will try to not repeat, I would appreciate it, so we get you out of here a little bit. I have Mr. Lyle Shaver in opposition. You'll need to be sworn in.
You sound swear that the testimony not given this case.
I do.
You probably need to bring the mic down. There you go.
There you go. Come down here. Lyle Shaver, 1325 Hilltop Drive, Blue Springs. Little background. Excuse me. The HOA board asked me to make some comments tonight. I'm a longtime resident of Blue Springs since about 1970. We own several properties near there. We own the duplex at Shaw and 6th Street, and we own 19 units on 6th Terrace. Typically, I drive Shaw Parkway 7 Highway intersection from 6 to 10 times a day. So I think I've got a fair feel of what the traffic is like there. I think everyone would like to see the vacant motel removed and replaced. I think that's 100%. Many are tired of waiting and willing to support the proposed car wash, as you've just heard. But I think there are better alternatives that if we look to the future and with the economy as it's going now, I think there should be other choices. Basically, I'd like to talk about 3 concerns. There was a comment made that this would help the traffic. I question that. I don't understand the rationale of that. Moving Jefferson approximately 300 feet east does help the westbound queuing issue, but existing traffic from the car wash will add significantly to that queue. I'm not sure what the net result is there, but I suspect it's a plus. With no access to Jefferson, all the car traffic must enter and exit via Shaw Parkway. Most of the exiting traffic will be turning left, crossing the inbound traffic on Shaw, both the inbound traffic and the turn lane. Adding to this traffic is the issue of from the previous proposal, there was an exit on Jefferson, which has been eliminated. So actually, this proposal has more traffic on Shaw than the previous one does, in spite of that being one of the issues when it was previously presented. When traffic is backed up on 7 Highway, and this will happen, as Mr. Bose has commented on, some of the car wash traffic will go onto 6th Street and through the subdivision, which is an issue today. Will there be additional traffic on the undeveloped area? This is not addressed in the traffic count, and I don't understand why that's not included in this proposal. This also leaves open with no landscaping on that area. From my observation, the peak wash, car wash traffic will occur in the winter after a snow, getting salt washed off of our cars. This peak will be the maximum throughput of the wash tunnel, whatever that is, and typically I think will continue for several days after snow. And I don't see this situation in the traffic count study at all. A second concern is the alignment of Jefferson Street with the dead-end 6th Terrace. This will certainly confuse some unfamiliar drivers who will want to naturally continue straight, and they'll run into a dead-end street, which is narrow and typically has cars parked on both sides. This also, that was previously mentioned, this is a school bus stop for all the kids that live on 6th Terrace. This is an unsafe design that should be avoided. Third, appropriateness of the land usage. In my opinion, a car wash is not the highest and best use of this property adjacent to residential as a major entry to our city and is not allowed with current zoning. There was considerable in the presentation discussion of the compatibility with commercial property in their other locations. I did not hear one comment of compatibility with the residential as this location has. As you know, zoning is meant to control appropriate development and should not be changed without a compelling reason. This car wash does not meet that criteria, in my opinion. Also, as you all know, rezoning to RC to allow the car wash will also allow future use of all other categories that are allowed in RC. And I believe that includes the number of vehicle usage, including car lots, used cars, car sales. And in summary, rezoning to allow a non-sales tax contributing car wash business adjacent to a residential area does not make sense and should be rejected. It's a nice business, no question, but a wrong location in my opinion. If approved, picture the contrast between the Blue Springs art piece on the west side of 7 Highway with a car wash on the east side with signs lit like a Christmas tree. Thank you. Any questions?
Are there any questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Shaver, do you feel that the termination of, or the realignment of Jefferson would negatively impact your properties along 6th Terrace and also Ms. Campbell's property just abutting Jefferson there?
Well, certainly if you leave it aligned with 6th Terrace, I don't understand the rationale of why it's aligned.
Back off of the mic just a little.
Okay.
Thank
I don't understand why it's aligned with a dead-end street when people have a tendency to continue straight if they really aren't sure where they're going. I think it would have much less impact if it was shifted either left or right of that entry.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner?
Is there a sign at that intersection that denotes that as a dead-end street?
Not that I recall. No. Probably, yeah, no question. But there is not one today.
Okay, so maybe the installation of a sign would keep traffic from going down that direction.
It would help, but I think you don't always read signs. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now I'll be calling. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can say this because I can't make out the letters. Bob Vinju is that? What is it? I'll let you get sworn in, and we'll get it
pronounced Vizot.
Vizot.
Chateau.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Bob Vizot. My wife Marge and I have lived at 1300 Northwest 5th Terrace for 25 years. And a lot of what we've heard earlier about traffic concerns, I think are warranted because we use Shaw Parkway quite a bit to get out of our neighborhood in Country Club Gardens. Okay. At 2163 Northwest Highway 7, there's Otto's Car Wash. Bubble Time Car Wash at 2131 Northwest 7 Highway. Belfonte's Car Wash at 2015 Northwest 7 Highway. And the Phillips Station at Shaw and 7 has car wash too. And what we're proposing here is to put in a 5th place to get a car wash in an 8/10 of a mile stretch of Highway 7. Why is this even being considered? I don't think we need it, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you. Questions?
Any other questions? Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Mr. Mike Lynn.
I do. Mike Lynn, 1208 Northwest 6th Street. I oppose this, not because it's the company or anything, great company, but I didn't count the gas station cars. This is number 4 north of I-70. And you just approved Quick Trip. This goes through, that's 8 car washes on 7 Highway. Seriously? How many can we support? You've already allowed 2, with a 3rd one up there on 7 Highway, which is now going to shut down Bubble Time because that guy can't remodel his to compete with these other big boys. This is enough. I live right there. I can stand on my front porch and see this hotel. Do I like it? No. And that entrance to the car wash, how far from the intersection of Jefferson are we, and is that moving back? We need multiple cars stacking. Right now, you get 5 cars on Shaw. Then everybody waits to get off of Jefferson to try and turn. Well, I've seen a half a dozen cars on Jefferson in the mornings. You can't get out. If you're only allowing 4 more stacking cars, that entrance needs to come out on Jefferson. And then you can stack from 7 Highway back to Jefferson. You need the stacking room. Are they allowing additional right-of-way for the widening of Shaw down the road in the future? Why not make Shaw eastbound 2 lanes, one dedicated right to go on Jefferson, the other one going into 6th Street? I see no additional right-of-way being given. I've had over 25 years of civil engineering, land surveying. I've helped develop, with developers in this town, multiple subdivisions. I've been in front of this committee many a times back in the 90s. I haven't been in before. But this is just bad development. This city needs to get its act together. You've allowed so much bad development in this town, it's not even funny. I will not go to Texas Roadhouse hardly anymore because you cannot get in those parking lots. That is the worst development in this town to try to get in and out of. You've got 2 car stacking limits. That's a whole nother ballgame. This is not right. That lot will sit vacant for many, many years to come. I guarantee it. You cannot build anything that narrow with a parking lot that's going to work. This company needs to be made to develop something on that lot. Make them develop it within a period of years if this goes through. But I do not want this going through. That bus stop right there, it's horrible. It's the last bus stop of every bus stop that happens throughout the day. Seniors, middle school, and grade school. The one at 6th Street where I live, there's 8 kids that get off of that bus stop. My 2 granddaughters get off there. Building next door has 5 kids in it. Duplex across the street's got 2 or 3 that I can think of, plus 1 down the street. So there's anywhere from 8 to 9 kids that get off that bus stop. And we've had cars on Shaw, the bus comes off of Locust, stops, and they'll turn left even though they got red lights. It's dangerous enough. Traffic that Mr. Schaefer talked about is horrible. One of the biggest reasons is when that golf course went public, you created a lot of traffic on 6th Street. They leave that golf course, come down, and leave out on 7 Highway. We have semis that turn on to Shaw. They're idiots because they don't know where they're going. And then they get on 6th Street and block all the traffic so they can back up and get back out. Councilman, whatever his name is, the new one for 1st District, he said he might, on Facebook, he said he might try and do something about that. Haven't heard anything about it. This is just, your other 2 car washes have no residential around them that affects them whatsoever. This one, this is a premier subdivision in Blue Springs, and you're going to add hundreds of cars a day down 6th Street. Guarantee it. I don't care what your traffic study says.
You need to address me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So that's I've lived in this town long enough, and perfect location for this car wash is go over on Woods Chapel and Duncan and Jefferson, tear down that little liquor store, you've got the entire corner, boom, there's no residential near you.
Okay, we'll take it in consideration. Thank you very much. Okay, we have Eleanor Frazier.
I'm Eleanor. I do. I'm Eleanor Frazier, and I live at 1304 Northwest 5th Street Terrace. And I've been a resident of Blue Springs, too, for a long time. We moved here in 1972, and we purchased property in Country Club subdivision because it was a premier location, and it was a wonderful place to be. And it's been evident, really, for about 10 years that the motel was not going to survive. And it was my fervent hope that the city would be looking for developers that would take advantage of this prime property that we have at the interchange of I-70 and Highway 7. And what I was expecting was a active action on the city to find that developer and that tenant that would fit this particular slot, because it's prime property, not just any property. And it should be something that we choose to make the city better, and not just because we could get some tax money out of it. Now, this interchange is often referred to as the doorway to Blue Springs. I think we have 3 doorways to Blue Springs, but this is the primary doorway to Blue Springs because it brings people to the main corridor and into the downtown area. And just like the door to your home, our city's doorway tells a lot about us. It tells about who we are and what we as citizens and governmental decision makers, that's you, want others to think about us. Now, this belief is often called Blue Springs values. To me and many others, Blue Springs values means a city with great schools for our children, civic pride in the area, small town atmosphere, and a genuine response to its citizens. So I ask, will this prime property express who we are and will be for decades to come? Will it say, as our mayor says, "Welcome to Blue Springs, the city on the move and on the right track"? Is one more car wash on prime property at the entry to our city the best decision for our citizens? Will it express Blue Springs values? I think not. Our doorway to the city should tell our citizens and visitors who we are and what we believe. It should show that we are a forward-thinking city, because whatever is placed on this prime property will be there for years to come. Can't we do better? I say we can. After all, we are the 10th largest city in the state, and that should make us attractive to potential developers. Thousands of people drive by this area. We have a unique opportunity to tell our story. Let's provide a better use for this prime property than just one more car wash. I urge the Planning Committee to be proactive in finding another developer that can better express Blue Springs values and open the door to a better Blue Springs for its citizens and its visitors. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, questions? Did you have questions?
Oh, good questions.
Well, Commissioner
Just
Payton.
what sort of development are you looking for if not a car wash?
Well, I love the idea of the hotel. I love the idea of a community center. We have a field house that offers recreation for citizens who want to do that and for sports activities. But for those of us who are not inclined that way, where do we go? Where do we have? So I would like to have some place where it is more community-based than a car wash. That would be my fervent hope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Ms. Frazier, what's your egress point when you leave?
We leave going down Shaw
Shaw? All right.
and turn left usually.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Mhm. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Okay, is it, if I can make out the spelling, is it Witherspoon or?
It is.
Oh, I did it good. Jerry Witherspoon, okay. Thought I saw that name.
I do. Madam Chairperson and members of the commission, I have lived in Blue Springs since Labor Day, 1969, at 1704 Northwest Walnut Circle, about a block from the previous presenter, Mr. John Jacobson. He and I don't have dissimilar opinions, but I kind of feel like when I came in was
asked to fill out this form, I was going to be voting in a primary. I either had to be for or against. And I was asked to speak as a representative of the Country Club Gardens Homeowners Association, along with Mr. Shaver. Having been associated with that group for 10 years, I kind of know the tenor of the thinking and some of the problems that we've had in the past. I moved to Blue Springs on Labor Day 1969, and I had to go Highway 40 to get into Kansas City, where I worked downtown. In about 1966, I-70 opened, and I was able to get from Gate 6 in Lake Lotawana to I-70 in 6 minutes. In 6 minutes. I mean, I boogied, but I got there in 6 minutes. I'd be awful lucky now to get from 40 Highway to Starbucks in 6 minutes. But my purpose in representing the homeowners is not to be for or against here, but to kind of challenge you, all of you, to the seriousness that we hold this decision. We think it's a critical one to make. I couldn't imagine in 1966 that it would take me so long to get across the state, the corridor to the I-70. I couldn't imagine that when I go out every day to get from my home into the business area of Blue Springs, namely Starbucks, that it would take me 15 minutes, and that's less than a half a mile. I couldn't imagine when I rode my bicycle underneath I-70 that it would be so noisy and so loud and so much of a problem to take life and limb. I think you've heard a lot here tonight about the problems and the benefits of all this. But I'm asking you to imagine what it would be like if it's a worse mess than it is now. Think about it. Are you going to actually do something that makes it worse or better? That's the question that I think the homeowners group's asking you to think about. Imagine what's going to happen. Try to use your forward thinking to see what's best for us. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
Why is it that the majority of the residents seem to go on Shaw Parkway when there is a divided street that exits on 7 Highway with a stoplight right in front of the country club?
The majority of the home, there are 350 residences in Country Club Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest majority of those homes are built on the south side. Simple as that.
Well, they could still go up in front of the golf club house.
You mean they could go out of their way to the north and then go through 6th Street and then?
If it would.
They still have to.
It would alleviate 10 minutes of your 15-minute exit.
That wouldn't happen. They'd still have to go back and go by Shaw. There's no way out except to go down 7 Highway to I-70. That's it. Shaw Parkway is the pivotal choke point.
Okay.
All those, excuse me, madam, all those properties on the north side, when they leave to go to work or leave to go to shopping, they're going to come down 7 and they're going to pass Shaw. Shaw is critical to our planning and to your consideration of this issue.
I thought there was a divided road that turned to the right.
The Country Club was built as the first primary building along to the east side of 7 Highway. There is a flagpole there in front, and there is a divided road there called Club Drive. There's a stoplight there.
Yes.
Okay? 90% of all the residents will be turning to the south. That will take them by Shaw.
I'm sorry, I thought it was a curve that did not necessarily go down to Shaw. I thought that they would have to
The
go
stoplight
6
simply
to get
lets
to
people
Shaw.
come out on the 70, on 7 highway, and they can either turn left or turn right.
Correct.
And again, I'd say 95% probably go south because they need to go to either the businesses or to I-70.
Right.
I'm not standing here against building this car wash, but I'm standing here trying to convince you that this is a major, major thing you need to kind of get under your belt and totally understand that why our emotions might be high one way or the other. And you know, I agree with the last speaker who talked about the fact that this was the gateway portal to Blue Springs. When we get off here, we're going to either go south down this terrible design 7 highway, which we can't do much about, or north, which takes us either on the I-70 or underneath that terrible underpass into the area that we call Country Club Gardens.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Anyone else?
Joe, my regards.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Oswald? You'll be sworn in.
I do. My name is Julius Oswald. I think I know most of you. I've been around here about as long as Jerry has.
Your address?
Or more. I know, I think about the same time. I live at 601, my office is 601 Jefferson Street. I live at 1209 Hilltop, which is right down the street, Locust. I'm going to try to clean up a few things here rather than talk about anything real fluid. There's been a number of things said here that I think that you guys ought to know. I think one of the reasons I will not say I'm speaking for the homeowners is because my wife's president of homeowners, and that might be prejudice, but that needs to be thought about from all of you. I am a little prejudiced. But why am I really prejudiced? Because I bought that property that I am, where my office is, and some of you know where my office is. It's next to this car wash, the Colonial Building. We bought that land in 1986. Actually bought all the land, all the way east, all the way up to the next street. We had grandiose ideas. We were going to name and build all the buildings in the colonial style. Well, we got our building finished. It is pretty colonial, I guess. Most of you like history. We got a restaurant there next to us that was pretty colonial. It became a steakhouse, and now Joe has the Mexican restaurant there. That was part of our lot. The hotel was part of our lot. Several duplexes part of our lot. And I'm telling you that my partner, Jack Cochran, most of you probably knew, who's died this year, would be upset as well as I am if our only answer to not having a car wash next to our building, which I think would devalue my building, might devalue some of these other places, is not to have it. And I wish we could do something else. Now, I will tell you, I went to several meetings. I know Don. Well, they're a good company, but that's not the point, people. Point is, we want that little sign they want to put out there, welcome to Blue Springs, Car Wash City on there. I mean, that's what we're heading here. That's ridiculous. That's our #1 place to get in this town, and we're going to put that there. Or talking about putting it there at least, whatever. How do we not put it there? You're going to have to vote on several areas here that you could vote just as well, or recommend to the council just as well, that they not vote for this thing. It may not sound right, but it is. There's several things that they violated here, including the zoning. That hotel is not in proper zoning. Never was. Why is that? I don't know. I'm not like pointing fingers. I want to tell you that putting the zoning in is probably the most ridiculous thing, because if that whole car wash does not make it, there are going to be all kinds of things out there, possibilities. And I'm going to talk about that again in a minute. And I think about that all the time. So what's the other solution? The other solution that came to mind today, not the first time when I drove through Independence, sister city Independence. You remember they had a Ramada Inn sitting there, Nolan Road. What happened to that thing? Well, the city took some action. And the city could take some action here too, guys. They could condemn that damn place. Is this bigger than it is? They could have this thing down. Close it down, whatever, move it, whatever you need to do. You're gonna have to spend some effort doing it. Ramada did that, went that way. They have 2 or 3 others over there. We use Smiles about to go that way. Over there on 40. There's several places over there. They saw what and did what they're supposed to do. Now I'm going to jump over to the study, this traffic impact study, and have been on that corner there with my office for 48 years, folks. 48 years. I've watched all that stuff develop around there, including all the duplexes and all that. I even own a couple. I own one now. My wife thanks me for that. Got rid of you. But I've seen there's just huge traffic problems out there. Huge. Getting out of Shaw is awful. Now, what did Olson didn't do? What did not they do right? They did not get up on 6th Street in Shaw, where the traffic bottles up there every day. Can't get through there. And what are we going to do? We're going to help it. We're going to put this street up there a little closer to Shaw. We're going to help it out. That's not going to add numbers. It's not going to help down on 7 and where you come in on the Shaw. That's just adding to the problems. That means there's no question. How can you fix the scene by adding more vehicles? I don't know. I looked at the Olson study. I don't understand it all. It appears that they're talking about an average of 34 ins and outs an hour. Maybe I'm wrong. They can rebut me if they want. That comes down to like 781 cars a day, an average day maybe. They may say that's wrong, but I'm telling you, I think I'm pretty well on there. They know what their numbers are. They know what they have to make there to make that thing go. And so that's a lot more cars there. When it's already bottled up down there, getting on Shaw, can get maybe 3 cars out between lights. Getting on to 7. And it just goes on. The buses stop there. Can't get down that lane. They bottle up at 6th Street. Where this study should have been done is about 6th Street and Shaw. That's where Shaw hits 6th Street. People come around Locust, make that jog, go somewhere. Some of them go down to on down 6th Street. 6th Street, incidentally, runs right by the country club. Why? To answer your question, ma'am, 6th Street ties into Country Club Gardens. What is that road? Country Club Road, I think it is. Goes into 7 Highway. Okay. So you ask me why don't they use that? It's worse than the damn Shaw. Go out there. You don't have to. There's probably 3 or 4 cars deep out there. 5 all the time. You can't get on 7. The lights never change. That's why they don't use it. But then they come down to Shaw, and this is worse. Then they can go on and try 6th Street and go out and hit Duncan Road. They got cars on both sides, all those duplexes and stuff up there. You can't get through there either. We're just guys, if you prove the zoning, rezoning this thing, you're just asking for more problems for the city. That's all it's coming down to. When it could be handled by some other way. That's what I'm telling you about that. Now, the part of the traffic studies missed the point. They missed the hours. They did their traffic studies at 4 to 4:45 down there about 7 Highway and Shaw. Where they should have been done is up there. They want to do one at 6th Street Terrace. They should have set their numbers right there. Okay, or up there on 6th Street at about 7 in the morning. When the school buses run, can't run up down the street. They park there. Cars can't get in and out of there. It's a bad deal. And that's the same deal all the way up, which is in the focus here tonight, all the way up and down what is it up and down the road there? Jefferson mostly, and all those duplexes down through there. They're all parked there. You ever see that? We don't get some children killed out there. It's going to be unbelievable. That's just the way it is. Well, how are we going to fix that? I don't know. The state ought to fix it maybe. I don't know. But also, I told Don, he may not believe me, but I do run these state guys all the time. State knows there's a problem there. State knew there's a problem there 30 years ago. Some of you older folks on the deal, Joe, I'm sure will probably remember, and I don't mean to tell you old. Do you remember when they were going to put a clover leaf there? Right there? Why do they want to put it? Because the traffic problem was a problem there then. It isn't going to get any better with you guys dumping more cars on it. They were going to put a cloverleaf there, try to buy our building. We talked about selling our building to them. That was for Adams, I think Applebee's went in there and so on. Because they knew there was a traffic problem there, and this thing just didn't come together. So this is not something we're just bringing up the first time. And they just ran out of money, whatever they did. So the whole deal just goes on and on. And asked her a question, is there any other interest? Oh, heck yes, there's interest. Being next door to this thing, I get calls all the time. Being a lawyer, representing a lot of business clients, I get calls all the time. Well, to buy it, there is a problem. They got too much money invested in the thing, a bank, whoever's pushing this, putting Jefferson Street through there, won't let anybody go in unless they put Jefferson Street in. That adds up, just keeps adding up and up and up. I'm glad there's a car wash in some respects that has all kinds of money that can afford to do that. But I'm telling you, I get mostly calls from restaurant type things. They'd like to be there. But when you go put it together, it's tough. What's the answer? Go in there and condemn the place. Take it over. Sell it yourself. Let the city take it over and put it in. That's part of your answer. Been through it several times. Go through it independence. They got several things going over there. Am I saying independence is any great godsend for guidance? No. You know, it's got its own problems. But I'm telling you, it's not not working. But I can tell you that Olson's a good outfit. I've used them before. I know they do. But they took their study right there, right around Phillips entry, around the 7 highway, around the Jefferson Street where it came in there. Get on up, take that Jefferson Street where it's going to go through there. This here's the sport on that. Take it up to 6th Street. That's where the ties start beginning, and they just keep marching down to 7. You can't get out. One of the things I will say about Olson is that they realize there's a problem down there. They wrote in their report for you, when you read it. It says on Drive 1, that's the first one. That's their drive. It does not meet corner clearance spacing from M7 or driveway spacing, corner clearance spacing for relocated Jefferson Street. In other words, they recognize there's one huge problem down there on 7 Highway where it comes by this place. Putting all this stuff in there is not going to help a thing. It's going to just add problems. That's all it's going to do. They also put in there a wide section of roadway along the north side of Shaw. Existing driveways do not meet MoDOT access spacing criteria for driveway spacing or corner clearance. They say, well, maybe by moving this up might improve it. What's all this might stuff? You know, that's not going to help. How are they going to know anything about that? You know, this is not. I don't think it's going to help a bit. Anyway, one of the things that I will say about going through all your reports, and if you haven't read them, you've got a lot of nights you'll be able to sleep better. There's all kinds of paperwork. I think it's 170 pages or something of reports. They've been working on this for ages, trying to get this thing through. The staff reports I'm primarily talking about, and I want to commend the staff. I think they were very truthful in a lot of things, including admitting that zoning was never right out there, for instance, and so on. Probably the biggest thing they're admitting is that all the signage these guys want, why they want to be there, I know why they want to be there. It's the best place they can be with huge signs. You haven't seen this sign thing yet. You ought to look at that. I mean, it's unbelievable. I want to read you in the staff report. Just think about this. This is on the lights and the lighting. This proposed lighting plan includes 11 ground-mounted light poles, 3 group-mounted floodlights, 15 building-mounted lights, 16 mounted under canopy lights. Are you guys going to let this type of thing go through? I mean, that's just going to be like a big circus down there on the corner. You know, all they want to do is get 70 highways, no doubt about it. Is there anything wrong with that? No, I know they like people in Odessa know they're here, and people in Bolivar and up north. They want to put a sign up there. It's already, Phillips is already there, right in our yard. They must have at least a 50-foot sign there. I don't know who belongs to it. We've never been able to find that out. Be interesting to see what the city. They want to put another sign there. There's also a motel sign there. It's got to be a 35-footer or better. And I don't know where they're going to put that. But if that's one they want to use, I don't know what they want to do with it. this goes on with these lights. I would invite you, and while you're looking and thinking about that, go down to Belafonte. I went by there at night purposely. I think they got 3 signs on the whole damn building down there. Boy, they wouldn't buy that here. I guarantee you. They want a 35-foot corner sign. They want all these signs all around. Looks, look at the stuff when you get it. We don't need that. That's just another thing. Go down to the other Belafonte. They stuck with a monument sign. That's the biggest thing they have. That's where they are. That's not right. I don't mind a little light for protection, but Lordy, we need that type of signage out there. Incidentally, the big old sign that Phillips had, they just put the face in it after about like 2 years being out. This week. And I don't know if they plan on trying to use that or buy it from Phillips or what. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen on that. The other thing I want to, besides the signage, that's really upsetting, that business. I've told Don from the first time I met him that in fact, the worst thing about the car wash were the signs. I mean, you see them all over, the big plastic-looking things. I mean, I think that's doesn't add to anything to see. This adds our car wash city theme, whatever it is. One other thing I was going to mention here someplace, besides the signage, they've also, the staff, I'll give them credit again, they suggested that these car washes, and most places the car wash wouldn't even get, and he may not want to agree with me, would not even begin to put an application in to be in a residential area. If I'm in a residential area, I don't know what the heck is. 6th Street Terrace is a residential area. 6th Street, all the way down is a residential area as you follow it on around. All those streets down Jefferson Street go off into residential duplexes. It just shouldn't be there. This is that simple. They also talk about it should be harmonious with the rest of the buildings and stuff. This is not going to be harmonious with any residential place. And the residential have been there a long time before the general business was. Most of those duplexes and units over there have been there a long time. The other thing I will get to, and I'll get out of here, is the zoning. You've had it mentioned here, and that's ridiculous. They want to get into this commercial zoning. That goes, as they say, from, I think Mitch has said, from car lots. Why is it? And we got animal shelter things, manufacturing, food production, service stations, there's everything you can put in there. Well, we're never going out of business. Whoa, famous last words. I think mechanical, one of the science magazines came out today with new cars coming out that clean themselves. What in the hell we need car washes? Will they go down? Maybe so. Read them. You read them. I know you can read. I've seen you read. So the situation is that they could go down, and we're going to be stuck. How many times are you going to get out of that type of heavy zoning? It just doesn't happen. Then the people out there are really going to have some fun with animal shelters, whatever else they have out there. Recreational vehicle park. Good Lord, that's something that's not needed. So that's my opinion. I will not take any more of your time. I appreciate you all spending your time here tonight. I know it's sometimes boring, sometimes it's kind of interesting, sometimes your opinions are extremely important. I ask you to take that up. One other thing I want to mention that's a little bothersome to me, and I'll mention it and start reporting here, is that the attorneys have a little saying that about when they get looking at their actions or inactions or not doing something that may be ethical or moral. They talk about something about the appearance of impropriety. Now, I don't care what the hell they do with Oklahoma, nor independence, but paying 1% sales has appearance to me. And I want you to have all the sales money. I like you. I lived here for 48 years or whatever, 49 years, 50 years really. But I've asked you to look at that real close. All your contracts and stuff. And you, city attorney, look at that. And I don't say anything more. I'll take any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Oswald? I think you covered it all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any comments or any questions for the applicant? Or I know that we're going to go through a few things here. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Would it, I don't know if it might help to kind of clarify, there's several questions it seemed like about the timing and where we took the traffic study and those kind of things. Would it help maybe to go through that one more time, I guess, just to, if you could clarify why you chose where to take the study, what time you chose and why, and maybe we heard conversations about the winter load versus the timing we took it. Can you kind of comment on that a little more?
Okay. Mr. Mallon, did you write down our pros and cons and
I wrote down a
cover
list,
some of the things because the city's already addressed some of these?
Okay. Yes, and I've wrote down a number of items and kind of grouped them into some categories. The first of which I think had the most issues or questions asked, which was traffic related, and so it would be maybe appropriate to start with traffic and have the applicant and the traffic engineer and if an appropriate city staff help to address some of these, not only the counts, but also some of the stacking issues on Shaw, whether or not there's going to be additional right-of-way on Shaw, some of the reasons why the future Jefferson Street is going to be realigned with 6th Terrace, how this will impact the bus stop, and also the existing condition on Jefferson Street and what kind of additional traffic is going to be put onto Jefferson Street heading east and the condition of that road. So those were some of the issues that I wrote down in relation to traffic, and I think that maybe that's probably the first category we should jump to start with.
Okay. Is that good?
Yep.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to stop just for a minute. Mr. Mellon, has the fire department, fire marshal taken a look at this possible situation where a fire truck will not go down 6th Street Terrace because they can't turn around at the end?
I'm not aware of that. Public Works, Tom, have you heard of such a thing?
No, I mean, that's an existing street, so it's not part of this development, so I'm sure they're aware of it.
Okay, I just wondered if there was, moving Jefferson would exacerbate a situation where there'd be traffic in front of the fire truck or blocking the fire truck.
I think this will improvement, because I mean, if we move the alignment of Jefferson off of 6th Street Terrace, we'll be creating an offset which will cause traffic congestion problems, which we don't generally do in our profession. So that's why the alignment's there. I mean, we can sign that it's a dead-end street to prevent people that don't know it's a dead-end street to keep them from continuing on. But generally, we like this alignment.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? Before I bring the applicant, like to come up about the traffic study?
I would defer to the traffic engineer because that's their
fine.
expertise.
You've already been sworn in, so just go right at it.
Okay, so I did take some notes and I come up with similar. So what I'll do is I'll start with how we got the counts, and then I'll move forward and end up why we chose Jefferson, where we located it and such. Basically, as I said earlier, we look at windows of opportunity. We looked at 2 1-hour peak periods, which the first one was during a typical PM weekday. And
Would you step forward just a little bit?
Oh, I need to
Thank
talk
you.
louder, huh?
Okay, not loud, but just, you're fine.
Is this better?
That's fine.
Okay, so we looked at a 1-hour, counted and took a 1-hour period during a typical PM peak period. I think one of the gentlemen alluded it was 4:45. And why didn't we take it at 6th Street, the time period be different? The reason is that 7 Highway and Shaw is the most critical intersection. It is the highest volume, and thus it gives us better data as to where the actual peak occurs. So that's the reason why we took the counts where we did. We looked at that, and we looked again at 11 to 1 on a Saturday, and looked again what that 1-hour peak period was. We took that information and we did our analysis. We did it under current conditions, what is happening right now. Yes, there are some queues on the side streets, and that's because MoDOT's timing is such that they are allowing more time, more green time to the north-south movements because it's the heaviest, and there's only so much green time that's available for the side streets, and that's why those vehicles currently are experiencing some delay in queuing. However, the queues aren't substantial when you start looking at how you want to relocate and align access points from current conditions. Right now, if you are out on Jefferson Street, it sits roughly 146 feet away from center line of 7 Highway. That is not very far, and what you're finding in the mornings or evenings that we counted is that you have folks that are trying to come off Jefferson to get on the 7. They have to enter their way into the existing queue, and it creates all types of havoc. We call that the functional area is compromised. With this relocation of Jefferson Street, it pushes Jefferson Street over to 6th Terrace. We didn't pick it because we wanted to put undue harm on the dead-end street. We picked it because it's the safest plan as far as having access directly aligned across from each other, as Tom alluded to earlier. You do not want offset intersections. It creates conflict. You don't have eye-to-eye with other vehicles, so that's the reason why we did that. There is a question on where Drive 1, the proposed main access is, and where it is from its proximity and location now. Basically, the drive will be aligned 170 feet from where Jefferson is today to the east. What that tells me is it's going to provide another 7 cars of stacking westbound to turn left on the 7 Highway to go south. Again, that's going to provide more uninterrupted time for those vehicles. What does that mean with the addition of these trips? It means when you add the trips from the car wash to current conditions, you could expect about a 1 car or less additional queue than what you're seeing out there today. The reason is such, the numbers are 70 to 80 vehicles in 1 hour, but if you divide that over the hour, you're not looking at that many trips per per cycle of the traffic signal. I heard comments on, I think they said put a restaurant. If you're truly concerned about additional trips, you could possibly put 2 restaurants on this site. That would more than triple the number of trips that this car wash would do. So if you're concerned about traffic, I probably wouldn't want to go that route. Another comment is for wintertime conditions, absolutely. I'm going to be one of those guys getting my car washed during that time. From a traffic viewpoint, we do not design nor study an event status unless it's something critical like an arena or such. And then even when we do that, we're more into traffic control and not necessarily adding more turn lanes. Thus, for those few times, the times that there's a peak, yes, you would expect more trips because of just the way the nature of it is, but we wouldn't design for it. Is there any questions, anything that I did not address?
And maybe this is better for Public Works, Tom. The current condition of Jefferson Street heading east from this property and the ability to handle any increased traffic. Did Public Works find any issues with that?
We didn't look at that, but I mean, we certainly have, capacity issues throughout the city. I don't think this development, most of the traffic split from this development is 90%, I believe, is going west versus 5% back to the east. So, okay. But yeah, I mean, we do have lane configurations on Jefferson we're aware of.
Couple things to that point. You're correct that we're assuming, I think there's a question, the line share is heading towards Route 7. 90%, we have 10% heading east, and that equates to about 2 cars in a peak hour. One thing that's not brought up but is on the site plan that the client's going to do is put a common left turn lane, a twiddle separating the left turns along Shaw between 6th Terrace and 7 Highway. That's going to be a little bit more of an advantage point so that cars that are wanting to turn left to some of the existing businesses can get out of the way of the through traffic. So that should be an improvement overall.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton, would you explain the common left turn? I can't picture that in my.
They call it lots of things, but twiddle, but it's a well, down 7 Highway, you'll see a left turn lane out in the middle where folks wanting to turn in those access points can get out of the through traffic to make their turn. So it's a third lane basically in the middle of the road. You got, in this case, a westbound and eastbound lane with a common lane in between.
You're talking about like Woods Chapel?
Yeah.
At that car wash, there's a middle lane that you can get in and snug in until you can turn.
Right, okay.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it benefits even 6th Terrace, some of the other entrances down through there that are offset currently.
Mm-hmm.
This should help.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Just
Thank
happened to
you,
be a car wash there.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Fulton.
All right, any other questions? All right, now, what's our next topic? Thank you.
The next topic was in regards to the lighting of the site. And I believe there were kind of 2 issues with that. One about there being too much lighting on the site, and also a concern about security lighting due to some of the nighttime residents, if you will, and security issues that may result from those, and people trespassing on adjacent properties. So that was one of the issues on lighting.
Typically, there was a photometric study in the application, so we tend to follow the local guidelines on what lights allowed. We certainly can't exceed it. As far as how much of that is left on after closing hours, I don't know that we've made that determination or explored the ordinance on that, but we're concerned about safety just as much as everyone else. None of our the guest vacuums are not accessible once we close. They're centrally operated. We do have quite a few. I probably won't go on record how many HD cameras everywhere. So we have a good view of what's going on 360 degrees around the facility. And then, but typically the issue is not having not enough light, it's having too much, and we're not exceeding the standard set forth in the ordinance in foot candles.
Are there any questions for regarding lighting? What's our next
I don't, it's not directly asked, but I'm not sure we're addressing any lighting on that lot 2 at this time. I saw Brenda left, but to me, the best thing we can do there for security is tear down the hotel and clean that up and replace the fence to start.
Well, we're just going over our list of comments and trying to address everything that the audience has brought up.
Yeah.
So this is a good time for us to address, so we know where we stand too.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the other issues that can be addressed, one, I'll leave the agreement kind of for the last one, but it was brought up multiple times about the number of car washes on 7 Highway, in particular north of 7 Highway. And from a city planning and zoning standpoint, that is not something that is one of the criteria in the UDC upon which we review these applications. And Tom Kohler, Economic Development and Community Development Director, can speak to a little bit more about markets and how that impacts our zoning regulations.
Sure. In regard to the question of does the city have too many car washes, if you will, it's really the city's position that we don't dictate the market. And what you've got before you this evening is simply an applicant receiving their due process through our entire process. This is an application that was brought to us. We walked them through the process, got it to where it is for you to see this evening, and that's really where we are. Personally, I've got to think that the market would, to some degree, support it. Otherwise, these gentlemen and this team wouldn't be throwing the investment out that they're proposing this evening. So, but as far as whether we have too many, that's really not a question per se for the city to answer, because that really ultimately is part of the capitalist system that we live in.
I do have a question. It was brought up tonight about the fence.
Mm-hmm.
along the other adjacent property, as well as the other lot that's not going to be developed that they say is narrow, and the maintenance of that lot. Now, I know you said something about you'll do something with the fence, but
Well,
what's
again,
the other something?
Yeah, well, it's not part of the application, so we didn't focus on what are the materials. So, typically that would have been, I guess, addressed at the time that lot was applied, but we said we would go ahead and remove what's there and replace it with a better fence. But we haven't really discussed as what that means. Is that cedar? Is it wrought iron? Is it, it's not chain link, but so we would do something there. And I would be happy to have another conversation with Brenda and our team, but we didn't really focus on that because it's not part of the car wash lot. But we don't mind stipulating to replacing the fence.
I know, but I guess it's just that since this has to do with the car wash, I understand, but you're talking about tearing out the hotel, and whatever's left is left, and the other lot is part of what's left.
Right, well, we would grade,
Okay.
seed, maintain, and you saw the Lee Summit pictures, it'll look like that.
And you're gonna maintain that lot until it's sold?
Yeah,
Okay.
it could be a while.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's a reflection on us and our reputation, and we take that pretty seriously.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Okay.
This is for staff. Didn't we just recently pass a new ordinance that limited some types of businesses like tobacco stores, tattoo parlors, something like that? Didn't we just recently do that?
Yes, there were amendment to the Unified Development Code back in March, I believe, that put specific restrictions on uses, including tobacconists and tattoo body art businesses. Those were requests that came through the Public Citizens Advisory Board and then came through the Development Advisory Commission as part of those code amendments. Due to a desire to limit some of those uses due to their undesirable outcomes or impacts on neighboring properties. So yes, the city does have certain land uses in our code where there is a cap on the number of land uses or the number of establishments that can be in the city based on a per capita basis. Another example would be, I believe, short-term loan businesses as another example. So we do have a few of those types of uses in the code that are based on a cap system, if you will, a maximum allowed based upon the population number.
So it seems like, and I'm not saying we would want to do that in this case, but sometimes when it serves the public interest, we as a city do limit certain types of businesses for the general public interest. Is that right?
Yes, there have been certain uses that have been limited through the code.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I will yield to the commissioner on my left for his questions, but I'd like a return to ask staff another question.
Okay. Commissioner Sanderson?
I know, I was pointing that way.
Okay. So I will direct my question to staff. The 185-foot notification letters, were there any returns, and were there any oppositional or in favor letters returned?
I received 2 returns from Cooley Investments out of Kansas City, Missouri, and Cody Smith at 1208 Northwest 6th Terrace. I have not received any letters in opposition.
All right. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Chair.
And Commissioner Sanderson, did staff answer your traffic question?
Yeah, that was answered. Thank you.
I want to make sure all the questions have been addressed. Yes, Commissioner.
I just wanted to make a statement that there has been commercial development next to Country Club Gardens since it was built. Class reunion of that whole strip center. There was a grocery store there where now there is a gym. So this is, to me, a precedent for commercial next to the duplexes, which are a buffer to the residential. But those things have been there for years. This is not new to have commercial in that area.
Any other? I think that what they're talking about is that it's zone commercial, but we're changing the zoning that opens it up to a lot of other
Changing it to the regional commercial.
regional commercial, which changes it from commercial to regional commercial. So if some of the residents I see that there was concern if it would one day close down, that it would open it up to what could come back into there. So that's why I think that we're used to the commercial, but it's limited more than rezoning it. So I think that's my thoughts. Am I incorrect?
I believe that that's a good summary of the issue. That's how I had written it down
Put it
as
in
well.
layman's terms?
Yes, the concern was that if the rezoning to regional commercial is approved, that allows a new menu of land uses there that currently wouldn't be allowed under the general business zone.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Did we address everything? And what else is on our list?
The last item I had was for should the commission want to add a condition regarding the agreement for a portion of the revenue to be paid back to the city, that could be added as a fifth condition of approval for the conditional use permit. Staff would suggest leaving that language, the specific language, to be determined at a later date, depending on all of the legal issues, to make sure that we're complying with all state statutes and city ordinances and laws, but that should there be the council desired or the commission desire to add that as a condition, to put something in the condition stating that prior to a certificate of occupancy being granted for the business to open, that an agreement be entered into in which the owners agree to pay the city a percent of their revenue as a way to offset the sales tax not being, or the services not being taxable by the state of Missouri until such time and if the city should ever, or the state should ever determine to make those services taxable, then that payment would go away, in other words.
I'm going to refer to council.
That's a good idea.
Well, you're correct that, the planning commission can impose additional conditions and may want to do that, but this is the first that we've, heard of this as far as the city of Blue Springs, and so I'd kind of like to see what the other cities in Missouri have done with this company. And I agree with Mr. Oswald. This is something we need to look at to make sure it passes legal scrutiny. And I believe you said the city of Independence has an agreement?
Yeah, but it's on it's a CID, a community improvement district, so that's more of a private issue than a sales tax.
And what about Lee Summit?
Lee Summit did not.
Does not? Okay, that's something we need to look at.
Okay.
It was more a discussion with the mayor, actually, about a concern about generating revenue from the corner.
Okay. Mr. Maryland, did we have any other items?
No, those were some of that was the exhaustive list that I had written down. If anybody else had written something down that I had missed on the commission, I thought I had them all. I tend to agree with Jackie and legal that while the commission is able to add that condition of approval related to the 1% reimbursement to the city, conditioning the approval of it, I'm not sure if that's the best course of action, but that's I'm not a legal opinion either, because I don't want to the application is for the rezoning, the conditional use permit, on the face and the criteria listed in the code, and the payment, such an agreement isn't one of the criteria listed in the code. So, if an agreement could be worked out, that would be great. But the application, and Jackie, correct me if I'm stepping out of bounds here, should be reviewed on its merits per the zoning criteria, per the conditional use permit criteria, per the preliminary plat criteria under the code, and not necessarily based upon this, this agreement that should it get worked out pending all legal review. That would be great, but maybe not make the entire approval dependent upon that.
You may not want to bind the council
That's correct.
or the commission at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't want to make that a condition on rezoning. Right?
Or any item.
Any.
tonight.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Have we covered everything? All right, now, once I close the public hearing, there was no questions, or is there anybody, did you have something?
I didn't have a question. I would like to make a comment before you close the public
That would
hearing.
be fine. If you would like to have any open comments, that would be fine.
What I got out of listening to this is that we all agree the motel is an eyesore. The motel needs to come down. I don't think anybody in this room questioned that fact. The question is this the best use for this property? And personally, I do not believe it is. I believe, as Ms. Fraser said, this is the gate. This is the only remaining piece of property that we have that is on a prime entry into the city. And I want something on this corner that is going to pull people off the highway and get them to come to the city and get them to stay here. Or at least spend a little of their dollars here so we can generate some revenue from it. And I don't feel this is the way to do it. So the land use here, I would love to have them come into town. I love the company. I would love to have them build a car wash. This is not the appropriate location.
Is there anyone else?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a comment as well.
That's fine.
To add to Mr. Billups, one of the things that I keep thinking about, and from testimony that everybody has given this evening, is I did not get a feeling that everyone was thrilled about putting in a car wash. What I got was, it was their desperate attempt at getting rid of a hotel. Turning the property into something that was desirable for somebody to build on, but not necessarily a car wash. They just wanted to get rid of the blight that was in that area. So I too lean the direction of not approving, but I just wanted to add to Mr. Billups' comment.
Commissioner Casey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add to Commissioner Billings' comments as well. Just as someone who's spent a lot of time talking to residents, specifically in this area, the number one thing I hear from them is that they don't want any more car washes. And I just feel like we need to keep bringing that up because it's something that I've heard so often. And I feel like if we approve of a car wash here, it would be in direct opposition to what the majority of the residents in that area want. And in addition to that, I just feel that I lost the other bit, so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Well, I don't know if it's appropriate if I make a statement, but I've lived in Blue Springs since 1985, and I just think this is a primary piece of property. And I do understand how you want to bulldoze down that hotel, but I just cannot see that when I come to Blue Springs, that's what I want to see when I come down and enter 7 Highway as a car wash. And that's not my vision of my city. It took a long time for us to clean up Woods Chapel that I live off of, and I just can't see putting a car wash right there at the entrance of our community. So that's my feelings. It's a primary piece of property. It's a beautiful corridor entrance, so, yes, Commissioner Fairbanks?
Is there any way to investigate what Julius Oswald said about the city being able to condemn that property?
I remember we did discuss that not too long ago. No decision was made, and if you want me to, I will look into it and see what is, what the legal requirements are to meet the condemnation
Process.
Yes.
I would be interested in knowing what that process is, how the steps are taken, what kind of notification the owners have to have, that type of thing. Because I would think that obviously there are quite a few issues associated with the structure. And I know that the facility at Noland and I-70 had similar issues. And so yes, I would be interested in that. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I would add to that comment that I think the appropriate action there for anybody who wants to have that done is to contact your councilman, because they're the ones who are going to do it. It's not going to be us. We don't have that power.
Okay. Now, you understand, I'll close the public hearing and we'll just be making a recommendation. So that even though we vote, it still goes to the city council on this for rezoning. The rezoning only is what goes on. The rest of it, we are the making of the body of the decision on the other ones. But the rezoning, the city council still hears. And they will hear it November the 5th at 6 p.m. Not in October, but November the 5th. Now I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on the rezoning and the conditional use permit. Are there any other comments? Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion, if there's no further comments, of the public hearing for rezoning of Charlie's Car Wash.
Madam Chairman,
Commissioner Billups?
for the reasons I stated on the record, that I do not think this is the best land use for this area, I would move to recommend denial of the rezoning RZ 09186578.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Casey?
Okay.
Roll call?
Before you take the vote, I just want to make sure everyone understands that a vote of yes is to deny. A vote of no is to not deny.
It's to approve.
It would.
Approve.
It's confusing, but
Yes.
Okay, you made a motion.
Not to approve.
Let me restate it. You made a motion to deny
to
rezone.
recommend denial.
Recommend denial. So if you recommend a deny, it would be a yes.
It would be a yes.
If you don't want to do that, then it's a no. Okay. Roll call, please.
Planning Commissioner Veal,
Yes.
Commissioner Cradoff,
Aye.
Commissioner Casey,
Aye.
Commissioner Graham,
No.
Commissioner Fairbanks,
Aye.
Commissioner Peel,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Haney,
Aye.
Commissioner Billups,
Aye.
Chairman Banks.
Aye. Okay. The denial of the rezoning of Charlie's Car Wash has been approved. So that means that rezoning has been denied.
No.
Recommend.
Recommended to
Recommended.
the city council, our recommendation to the city council is deny it, which will be heard November the 5th. Okay. Now we'll have the public, if I can entertain a motion for item 4.
Madam
Public-
Chair,
Public hearing conditional use. Go ahead.
also for the same reasons, I would recommend, or no, I would move to deny the conditional use permit, CUP 09186581.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay. Roll call, please.
Planning Commissioner Cradoff,
Aye.
Commissioner Casey,
Aye.
Commissioner Graham,
No.
Commissioner Fairbanks,
Aye.
Commissioner Peel,
Aye.
Commissioner Sanderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Haney,
Aye.
Commissioner Billups,
Aye.
Commissioner Beal,
Aye.
Chairman Banks.
Aye. Okay, that motion to deny the conditional use permit was approved.
Correct.
Site plan and design review, Charlie's Car Wash. Entertain a motion. It has 9 conditions.
Madam Chair, the site plan and design review is a different matter to us because it is an administrative matter and not a legislative matter. And it is based on whether or not the plan presented to us meets the code and the conditions. That is a different matter than is it the right use or a good use or a bad use. That is, does it meet the requirements? And there is a condition in there that says this will be null and void if the rezoning is not approved. Therefore, the design as presented does meet the city's requirements. It does meet the city code. As an administrative matter, I move that we approve the site plan design review, SPDR 09186579, knowing that there is that restriction on there about the rezoning not going through.
Okay. With the 9 conditions.
With the 9 conditions, because it does meet the code as presented to us.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Commissioner Fairbanks? Okay. So all those in favor of approving the site plan design review for Charlie's Car Wash with the 9 conditions, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carried to approve that. All right. I would entertain a motion for the preliminary plat.
Madam Chairman,
I'm looking at you.
for everything I've said already, I don't want to repeat it.
Okay, with the.
With the conditions, I move to approve the preliminary plat PP 09186577.
Okay, it does have the 4 conditions.
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. All right, now we have the master alternative sign plan for Charlie's Car Wash with the 3 conditions. You're on a roll.
I'm on a roll. However, I don't believe that this master sign plan, being an alternative plan, meets the conditions.
Okay.
I think it is excessive. And I would not move for approval of that one. So,
I hear a second, Commissioner. Okay. All right, a motion's been made to deny the master alternative sign plan with the 3 conditions for Charlie's Car Wash. All those in favor to deny, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Commissioner Fairbanks, Commissioner Graham.
Graham, we have 2 no, 2 yes. All right, so that motion to deny was approved, if that makes sense. All right, is there any other business? We're down to there.
Madam Chair, I hate to make this night an even later night than it is, but I do have to say that coming up Saturday downtown is the grand reopening of the Chicago Alton Depot between 1 and 4 p.m. And we would love to have a giant crowd there for the ribbon cutting and to see what we've done. It's going to be very impressive to everyone. And Monday the 15th from 11 to 1 is the downtown annual chili luncheon, and again you get chili lunch or chili, a drink, and a dessert for $8 in advance, $10 at the door. And again, I still have tickets.
Okay. Any other business? I do have something I have to say. I want to wish one of our fellow commissioners, Joe Haney, a wonderful time on the 17th. He gets to take the honor flight to Washington.
All right.
So that's a cool thing, and we're so excited. Don't know if I'm gonna be there when you come home, though. It's a little late, so.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
I think that's wonderful. We want to thank you for your service. So that's exciting. All right, any other business?
No, we don't have any other business. I do believe we have a few items for the October 22nd Planning Commission, tentatively, so that will be our next meeting is October 22nd.
All right, so I'll see you there. Is there any other business?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I would like to thank the Charlie's staff as well as the support that they gave during the presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming forward, though. We really do appreciate you making another attempt. And it's not done yet, so it has to go in front of the city. All right, is there any other business? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting's adjourned.